What is up, everybody? Welcome to the special tournament edition, episode 104 of the Everything College Basketball Podcast. This is a big one. This is our most downloaded show and watched show all season. It's all culminated to this. I'm, of course, Josh Burton, and with me yet again today are my pair of teammates. Met back in the house, Peyton, and then Phil Dexter. Fellas, it's tournament time. It's March Madness is here. We've built the whole season up to this. This is the show.
Yeah, I mean, we've joked about it for basically since I've been on the show that this is Christmas for college basketball fans, and now it feels like we finally get to unwrap the gifts and get into the bracket. And I'm ready to go, man. It's literally the best time.
Yeah, before Peyton jumps in, it's funny you mentioned the Christmas term on this because I literally was talking to my mom yesterday. For the last 10 years, and along with Peyton, normally at my house or his house, one of the two, put up like gigantic poster boards of the brackets and just kind of follow along in the Sharpie. It's like a life-size version. And we're putting it up in his kitchen yesterday. And I was telling my mom, she was kind of saying something. I said, Mom, you love decorating for Christmas. This is our Christmas. So I decorate. She goes, I know. But it really is like our Christmas. We built our whole season up to this. And Selection Sunday yesterday, man, who did not sit there and have goosebumps and chills waiting for the reveal, who's going where, seedings, potential matchups? It is Christmas for us college basketball nuts.
I 100% agree. It's the Selection Sunday, the time leading up to it, watching all the games, the Big Ten Championship, SEC Championship, even a couple of small conference championships that they had on Sunday. Then waiting up to Selection Sunday, going right into that, and watching the reveal, the 68 teams. There's nothing better. There's not a better sporting event out than March Madness and Selection Sunday. It is net-cutting season, baby. Let's go. It's time to see who's going to come on top of this Cinderella team. Who's going to make a run. It's time to see Coach K get sent home for good. It's time to see Coach Cal choking the tournament once again. It is time. I am ready. Let's fucking go.
Well, you had me on the first part with the Coach K deal, but you're going a little too far there, pal. Hey, by the way, we're representing the T-shirts for those watching live. And yet again, we are streaming live on the Facebook page, on the Twitter, and on the YouTube. Hopefully you're watching along with us. If you are watching along, drop a comment. Let us know what you're thinking. We will we'll talk with you guys' feedback on the live show with all the tips and tricks you need to know in filling out your bracket this year. But with that being said, we already have some comments rolling in. We have some hellos. Want to hear my bracket predictions? Coach Cal to choke again. Choke on this. But like I said, with the T-shirts, if you see Peyton's and myself's ECB merch right here, the Bank on It T-shirt, the official Bank on It one. Peyton's got the Maui edition. We've got many other options in the store. Peyton, tell them where to find the T-shirts real quick before we get into all the bracket talk.
I need to get the link changed because the link's like very weird. It's like teespring.creator, everything college basketball. You can go to our Facebook group, facebook.com/group/everything college basketball. Join there, and it should be still in the announcements. Or if you listen to the show, you can go click on the links. I'm sure it'll be in the description.
And one last thing before we get rolling on tournament talk, thoughts and prayers, T's and P's up to the bad guy, Scott Hall, a.k.a. Razor Ramon. Our friends at Everything Pro Wrestling, Conrad Cushman, our sister site, does a tremendous job right now. Scott Hall's in bad shape, doesn't look good. So T's and P's to Scott Hall's family and friends. Thanks for the memories over the years. Hey, New View Painting loves ECB. By the way, proud sponsor of Everything College Basketball, episode 104, this tournament special, New View Painting. If you are in the state of Indiana or surrounding states and need any type of painting done, whether it's residential, commercial, or business related, hit up J.R. Rowe and Company at New View Painting, proud sponsors of this episode of Everything College Basketball. With all that out of the way, fellas, you ready to get into some tournament talk?
Let's fucking go.
So we'll start right at the top. We'll start with the 4 number 1 seeds. Gonzaga got the number 1 overall seed. Arizona was the other number 1, along with Kansas and Baylor. Let's start with the number 1 overall seed, the Gonzaga Bulldogs. I think I said it's the 5th time in Mark Few's era at Gonzaga they've been a number 1. It's like 3 of the last 4 years they've been a number one. Back-to-back years they've been the overall number one. Gonzaga got put out west like everybody expected. So let's start in the West region. In my opinion, this is the toughest of all the 4 regions.
Yeah, totally agree with you, actually. I feel like we talked about this sort of when they stopped, using the S curve as much. And Gonzaga is the number 1 overall seed, but they end up with Duke, who's a pretty tough 2. Texas Tech, probably not the second 2 with Tennessee or 3, with Tennessee ending up on that line. But just overall, some really tough teams. We got Alabama as the 6, who we've all talked about, can go on a run and beat anybody at any time. Arkansas is a great team. So yeah, just a really deep bracket overall.
Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of talented teams in here who can potentially come out of this region, who could potentially win a national championship. So this definitely is by far the hardest region. And Gonzaga got fucked on this. Being the number 1 overall seed, you got Texas Tech and Duke, Michigan State, and all these other teams on your side. That's ridiculous, man.
Yeah, can you guys hear me right now? Am I good?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was just making sure. But yeah, the West is brutal. We talked about Gonzaga being the overall number 1 seed. They open up play with Georgia State. A lot of people thought, Georgia State wins the Sun Belt Conference. I remember a time and a place not too long ago where Western Kentucky and others were in the Sun Belt, and the Sun Belt was never a 16 seed. So it's kind of weird. A lot of people thought Georgia State could be as high as a 14, and they end up on the 16 line. Gonzaga's, I don't know what the official line is. I'd imagine they're probably a 19, 20-point favorite. But is there any way that Georgia State keeps this remotely close?
I'm sort of in never say never mode with these 16 seeds now, especially since we've seen somebody, finally pull it off with UMBC over Virginia a couple years ago. I don't think there's any chance. If I had to bet on it, I would probably take Georgia State in the points, just because that's a hell of a lot of points to give. When you got a bunch of kids playing, teams can knock down threes, that type of thing. But no, I don't think Georgia State has any shot of really keeping this within striking distance.
Could Georgia State keep it close for like the first 10 minutes of the first half? Maybe. Just because I mentioned it last week, they do got a guy that I'm a fan of, Corey Allen, who's averaging like 14 a game. But as far as like coming down with like 5 minutes to go in the second half and having a chance to win this game, hell no. Gonzaga by 20.
Yeah, Gonzaga is going to run away with this one. I don't see any reason why they shouldn't dominate. Hey, Phil, take over the 8-9 matchup real quick. I got to take care of something.
Yeah, so going into the 8-9 matchup, this is kind of one that we speculated on a couple weeks ago, could potentially give Gonzaga some trouble. We got Boise State against Memphis, and we all talked about Memphis, being sort of that bad matchup for Gonzaga. And I do like Memphis in this game. I just think their athleticism is going to give Boise State some issues. And just as good a ball as they've been playing over the past month or so, I think they've really found their groove offensively. They've been a pretty good defensive team all year long. And I think they're just going to be too much for Boise State. So it just comes down to how they match up with Gonzaga. And I do think that's going to be an interesting game.
Yeah, this is definitely an interesting matchup. Both teams are very defensive-minded. You look at Boise State, the top 20 in defense, according to Ken Palm. They control the glass really well, especially keeping teams off the offensive glass. That's one of the key. If they can do that with Memphis' size, that could be a huge favor to them. And they have a big 3 consisting of Abu Kigab, I hope I said his name right. That is a difficult name to say. Marcus Shaver Jr. and Emmanuel Kai, all double-digit scorers. If you look on Memphis, they're top 30 defense as well, top 50 offense, and they have 5 guys who score in double digits. So I think I'm actually going to switch my pick because I originally had Boise State, but this is a tough matchup. I've been seeing going either way, but I'm actually going to switch my pick and go with Memphis on this one.
Yeah, so I've got the Tigers in this. We've talked all year about Boise State and the Mountain West and loving the Mountain West with Boise and Wyoming and that deep conference. But Memphis is playing as well, despite getting blown out by Houston yesterday. I still love this Memphis team and what Penny and the turnaround they've been able to have. I think Memphis wins this game and wins it pretty handily. I've got Memphis by at least 8 to 10 points in this matchup.
Yeah, no, I don't disagree with that at all. Like I said, I think Memphis is just a little more battle tested than Boise State is. As much as I love, as much as I love the WAC, or gosh, the Mountain West. My God, Memphis going through the AAC was a little bit, maybe down according to some people, but you still had SMU right there on the bubble. They played Houston great, beat them, blew them out in the regular season finale. Got blew out the other day, but still just feel like they're a little more battle tested and ready to go for the tournament.
So we move on from that. We go down to the 5-12 matchup. We got UConn, New Mexico State. I know 12 historically over 5 is the trendy pick. But if you look at this matchup, I think the way UConn plays defense and their size and athleticism will eventually overwhelm New Mexico State. I've got UConn advancing, but again, this is that trendy 12 over 5 pick. Phil, I know you're probably wanting to lean more towards New Mexico State, but do you have the upset here or do you have UConn?
No, I do have UConn in this one. I'm going to have some upsets throughout the bracket, but I really like what UConn has going with RJ Cole. He's been really, really good. They have size. Again, battle tested, I think, is a huge factor when you come into the tournament and going through the Big East. They've had to play a lot of tough, grinded out kind of teams. And I think UConn wins this one pretty handily, actually.
I agree with both of y'all. UConn, top 20 in offense, top 35 defense, the number 1 offensive rebounding team in the country. Connecticut wins this game by 10 or more.
That's a great point. I was going to bring that up as well. We talked all year. If you remember, it kind of went back and forth between Illinois and Kentucky for the number 1 offensive rebounding team. Late in the year, UConn makes a push. They go after the glass. Adama Sanogo is a monster on the backboard. They're just so long and athletic. They play really good defense. I think the question is for New Mexico State, can they hit enough shots to put UConn in a bind? Because UConn, their style of play, the way like they grind it out, they don't necessarily play the best from behind trailing. They're not one of those explosive offenses that can put a bunch of numbers up when you like a Gonzaga or Kentucky or Purdue. So if New Mexico State can get up on them early and kind of keep them at bay, I just don't know if UConn has enough firepower to make that type of run late to get it. But it's the fact if UConn gets up on them, I can see them suffocating and squeezing the game out. Let's move to the 4-13 matchup here in the West. Arkansas is the 4, Vermont as the 13. The Razorbacks has been as hot as anybody in the country over the last month and a half. But Vermont, an experienced senior-laden team that is going to slow Arkansas down. Can you guys see the upset here, or is it Razorbacks all day?
I mean, I have the Razorbacks picked, but this is somewhere where I see potential for an upset. You mentioned it. Vermont's going to slow this game down. They rarely turn the ball over, just under 10 a game. I think it's like 9.5. Ryan Davis, and I hope I get this kid's name right, Ben Shungu, both average better than 16 points a game. Both shoot better than 40% from 3. That's kind of the recipe, for that Cinderella, upset is 3-point shooting and a star player to lean on, and they have 2 of them. So I would give Vermont a good shot in this. And we've also talked about, JD Note and his kind of ability or lack thereof sometimes to shoot them out of games. So I think that could be an issue for Arkansas as well.
Arkansas has been on fire here lately, and I'm a huge fan of JT Note, but that flame goes out today on this game. I have Vermont with the upset. Their experience, like y'all said, they'll slow the pace down. They're 3rd in effective field goal percentage, 3rd in 2-point percentage. They're first on keeping teams off the offensive glass. And you mentioned the duo that shoot over 40% from 3, Ryan Davis and Ben Shungu, or however you say his name. I'm glad you went first. I like Vermont. Upset. First upset of the bracket. Let's go. Vermont gets it done.
Interesting. And if you're going to go Vermont, for those who watch and are listening to us, I'm going to give you a stat here to keep an eye out on. Vermont's number 1 in the country in limiting offensive rebounds. Teams are only getting 18.7% of their offensive shots in an offensive rebound, which is huge against an Arkansas team that loves to push the pace, chuck up a lot of threes, especially JD Note. If they can limit Arkansas to 1 shot most possessions and they'll grind it out with an experienced team, Arkansas could be in a lot of trouble here. Do not discount this as a potential 13-4 upset. But I think the key for this is Jalen Williams. His development in the last month and a half of the season, ability at 6'10" to stretch the floor from 15 feet and beyond, even hit the occasional 3. And obviously crash the glass, play around the rim. I think he's going to be massive for Arkansas during this whole tournament run, not just this Vermont game. I have the Razorbacks going through, but do not be surprised if Vermont's not there right with them at the final possession or two of this game. Moving on, we have the 6-11 matchup. This is one of our first play-in games here. We have 6 Alabama, which has been, we call them Jekyll and Hyde because they have been all year, but the resume was still good enough to get them a 6 seed. Playing the 11 seed, either Rutgers or Notre Dame. So let's start with the play-in game in Dayton. Who you got between Rutgers and Notre Dame? One of the last 4 teams in. This could be a very interesting one, probably an ugly slugfest if you would be completely honest with you. I could see a game in the mid to high 50s for a final score. What say you guys? Who wins the play-in game and then goes on to play Alabama?
Yeah, you literally took the words out of my mouth. I was going to call this one, a good old-fashioned rock fight. If they make it into the high 60s, I'd be very surprised. Like you said, it's going to be a high 50s, low 60s type of game. I like Rutgers. I love Ron Harper Jr. We've talked about him on the podcast throughout the year, and they've just, they've shown over the past month or 2 months that they can win big games. They were mostly at home, so that is a worry for me. Obviously, not being in the rack, but I think Rutgers pulls it out in this one.
Yeah, I agree. If this game's anywhere close, especially with a couple minutes late in the game, Ron Harper Jr. is going to make bigger plays than anything that Notre Dame can do. So I like Rutgers over Notre Dame.
I think it ultimately comes down to just who has the last shot. I think they're both identical in the style of play. They're both going to grind it out, rely on Rutgers more so on defense. Cliff Amourier could have a monster night against Notre Dame. They're not the biggest side or team inside, but they do hit the 3 ball better than Rutgers, so that could be a big factor. But I'm with you guys. I think Rutgers beats Notre Dame, advances to Alabama, and I think Rutgers beats Alabama because we just don't know what Alabama is going to show up. Now, if it's the Jaden Shackelford and company and they're lighting the nets up from 3, then Alabama can make a deep run in this tournament. But that's kind of what we've been saying all year. We don't know what to expect from them, and can they put 2 good halves together? So I'm going to take the defense in this one, and I'll take Rutgers beating Alabama for an 11-6 upset.
I'm going to have to agree with you there. I got Rutgers. If they ended up beating Notre Dame in this playing game and play Alabama, I agree with you. I think Rutgers will get the job done. It all depends on if Alabama hits shots or not. If they hit shots, then they can potentially get to an Elite 8, maybe a Final 4. They're just too inconsistent when it comes to hitting shots and not hitting shots. So give me Rutgers. I agree.
No, we're all on the same page here. If Rutgers makes it out of that play, and like Peyton said, I like them to advance past Alabama. Just think they're going to give Alabama some problems defensively. They have a good bit of length. Ron Harper Jr., again, there's just not really a matchup for him that Alabama, can guard him, and he's going to be able to guard a few different positions defensively. So I like Rutgers to beat Alabama. If it were to be Notre Dame, I actually think Alabama probably is able to pull it off. I just don't think Notre Dame is quite as tough as Rutgers is, and I think Alabama would be able to get by them.
I agree with that sentiment.
Yep, we're all on the same page on that.
Yeah, so I think Alabama is probably rooting for Notre Dame to win that because they match up better. I just think we all agree Rutgers is a bad matchup for the Crimson Tide unless they come out fire, and then Alabama's proven they can beat anybody. That 7-10 matchup we're getting ready to talk about, though. Davidson the 7, Michigan State the 7, Davidson the 10. Oh, my God. This is the Foster Lawyer revenge game, whatever you want to call it. Former Michigan State Spartan last year, now with the Davidson Wildcats. I'll let you guys take first volley because I think this is one of the more intriguing first-round matchups.
Well, we'll quick. Not that it really matters, but I'm sure we'll have the same pick. You forgot to mention the 3-seed Texas Tech versus 14-seed Montana State. Just for the viewers-wise, I mean, I'm sure we all have Texas Tech winning this game, but just for the viewer purposes wise, 3-seed Texas Tech facing 14-seed Montana State. Like I said, Texas Tech, they're physical, tough, defensive-minded. They're going to win this game.
Yeah, you're right. That's my bad. But, yeah, I think we all have Tech winning that one.
Yeah, no, I don't even have much to say about that game. I think Tech is pretty safe in that one.
Yeah. Now moving on to the 7-10 seed, like Josh just mentioned or alluded to, 7-seed Michigan State versus 10-seed Davidson. Real quick, I'm a huge fan of Tom Izzo, but they've lost 10 of the last 13 games. They shouldn't be in the damn tournament at all. You're telling me they deserve a bid over Texas A&M? And I'm glad because I asked y'all to remind me so I can talk about this, but I actually just remembered it myself now that we're talking about this matchup with Michigan State. I was watching after I was taking my notes for the show. I was watching the women's selection Sunday. First time they're doing a 68 seed that can actually have a March Madness logos and cards for them. But they had one of the committee guys for the men's selection show, and he was talking about why Texas A&M didn't make the dance. And he literally said one of the dumbest things I've ever heard in my life. He said at one point in the middle of the season, they lost like 8 games in a row or some shit like that. But Michigan State has lost like 10 to the last 13. Didn't even make the Big Ten championship game. Where Texas A&M beat Auburn. They beat Arkansas. And they ended up losing to a really, really good Tennessee squad who's now Final Four caliber team. And they don't make the tournament. They make the tournament over Texas A&M. It's no here nor there. It's whatever. I personally don't agree with that decision. But as far as just matchup wise, I like Davidson with the upset. I do. I think I have someone. Yeah, the 11th in offense, 14th in effective field goal percentage, 8th in 3-point percentage, and are led by one of the best 3-point shooters in the nation, Foster Loyal, like Josh talked about, who also shoots 93% from the charity strike. I like Davidson with the upset.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I like Davidson in this one as well. I love Bob McKillop, just a phenomenal coach. They're going to find ways to get their shooters open. You mentioned Foster Loyer. Hyunjung Lee is an awesome shooter as well. Shot 38% this year, 16 points a game. They got Luka Brockovich, 40% from 3. Michael Jones, 42%. They just have some guys who can light it up from outside. And like I said, McKillop's going to find a ways to get those guys open. I think Davidson's a really bad matchup for Michigan State and for potentially Duke in the second round.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think the key in this really is on the backboard and 3-point shooting, because you guys already mentioned Davidson offensive stats. Peyton, you talked about him being 8th in the nation 3-point shooting. They're shooting 38%. Phil, you kind of went over some of their guys. They've got 6 guys who shoot 37% or better from 3. 6 dudes, 37% or better from 3. Plus the tempo, they can easily slow this game down and make Michigan State uncomfortable. I think this is a bad matchup from Sparty. The one thing, the area that of concern for Davidson is they are towards the bottom in America in offensive rebound percentage themselves. They don't go to the glass. I think it's because they're more undersized. So when they shoot, they don't try to get necessarily a lot of second, third opportunities. So Michigan State should be able to control the glass. Tom Izzo team's always really good on the backboard. But I think this is a bad matchup for Michigan State. And I'm with you, Phil. I think they could potentially give Duke a matchup in the second round. I've got Davidson as well. Is that we all agree on that? Davidson over Michigan State?
Yeah, I believe we all 3 had them.
Yeah.
So there's the first, well, I guess the second upset in a row in this West region. And then, of course, rounding out the region, you got Duke as the 2-15, Cal State Fullerton. No offense to Cal State Fullerton. The Titans had a good season to get here. I think the winners of the Big West, but their run-ins, no way, even though Duke's not playing the best right now, no way does Duke lose this game.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Like you said, I do want to give Cal State Fullerton their share of credit. They were picked near the bottom of the Big West and ended up winning the Big West title. Had a good regular season as well, but they just don't have the talent to match up with Duke in this game. And as sloppy as Duke has been at times here lately, I just don't think that's even enough to keep Cal State Fullerton in this one.
Agreed.
I accidentally muted myself there. So let's move on to the second round. This is where things get interesting, fellas. On my end, I've got Gonzaga, Memphis. Gonzaga, Memphis. Phil, you remember a couple of weeks ago when the top 16 were revealed? We had that big show we talked about, and we theoretically went through Jerry Palm's bracket, and they had this matchup playing out. And we talked then that Memphis could beat Gonzaga. And since then, Memphis has only gotten better in the weeks after that. I know, again, they got blown out yesterday by Houston, but that's kind of neither here nor there, to be completely fair. Jalen Duren is playing monstrous ball. DeAndre Williams is playing well. Landers Nolly, they've looked really good, and you got to give Penny a lot of credit, like we've talked about in the last 3 to 4 weeks since this turnaround. Their defense and athleticism, we talk about Gonzaga pushing the pace and getting up and down the floor, the way they score the basketball. But if there's one team in this region that can match them step for step and plays better defense than them with that length and athleticism, Memphis could easily muck this game up and out athleticism, if that makes sense, Gonzaga. It would just be the key of, could they limit the big runs from Gonzaga and hit enough shots themselves? I've got Gonzaga winning this, but I'm telling you guys right now, if you got this matchup as well, if you pick Memphis, I'm not going to go say anything to you, because I think Memphis, in my heart of hearts, has every tool to beat Gonzaga and knock them out in the second round.
Josh, we're literally on the exact same page here. I'm picking Gonzaga in the game. I just ultimately feel like they're the most consistent team in the country right now. It's hard for me to pick against them, but if there's a matchup that's bad for them this early in the tournament, it's Memphis. I mean, out of all the 8-9 seeds that they could have gotten, Memphis would have been the one they least wanted to see. You mentioned Jalen Duren. He's starting to look like, the top 10, top 5 pick we all thought he would be coming into this season. We've sort of talked about it this year many times before with Drew Timme, and what gives him issues is, physical play and length. Duren's going to bring all of that. So I don't think Memphis pulls off the upset, but like you said, if you're picking Memphis with the upset, I'm not going to argue with you. I mean, I could absolutely see it happening.
I definitely hear what you guys are saying. We're definitely not on the same page, but I'll tell you what, we're at least on the same chapter at least, because I think Memphis has a chance to win this game. But if they're going to win this game, kind of like you guys already said, and kind of like we've talked about it, me and Josh especially have talked about it, ever since Drew Timme from the championship game last year to Baylor and coming into this year, is if a team's physical with him, it takes him completely out of the game. If you take him completely out of the game, you have a legitimate chance of winning the ball game. So if a guy like Jalen Duren can get Drew Timme and even Chet Holmgren in foul trouble, just go after both of them, then it's going to put a lot of pressure on Gonzaga's guards with Cyril Bolton and Andrew Nembhard. It's going to put a lot of pressure on them to be able to hit some shots. Can they? Yes. Will they? We'll see. I do like Gonzaga in this matchup, though.
The only reason I do favor Gonzaga is because I can see there would be a point in the game where they can go in like an 8-0 run to give themselves just enough space. Athletically, Memphis is going to put a lot of pressure on. I don't see Memphis and Penny backing off and giving a lot of space for Gonzaga to come downhill, because they're maybe more athletic than Gonzaga. They're going to be up on them. And I think the key matchup will come down to Duren and Chet Holmgren. It would have been fun if Amani Bates turned out that everybody thought he would have been, because this would have been a tremendous top 5 matchup lottery picks. But Jalen Duren could easily get Chet Holmgren in foul trouble if they match up, because Holmgren, we all know he's like a toothpick, right? And Duren is a monster around the rim. He tried to kill that rim yesterday in the AAC final. Did you see some of them dunks? My God. He could, if he gets Chet or Timme in foul trouble, we know Gonzaga's not the same team when either one of those, especially Timme, is off the floor. If they can put the pressure on Gonzaga in this theoretical matchup and get them in foul trouble, the Zags could easily lose this game. I'm not 100% sold that they're that much better than Memphis right now. Offensively, yes, but as a talent-wise and defensively, no.
I think what's really selling me on Gonzaga winning this game, though, is that I trust Gonzaga's offense a lot more. And if it does come down to, say, the final 2 or 3 minutes of a game, you can trust Gonzaga's offense to not waste possessions, whereas I don't know that we can trust Memphis's offense to not waste those same possessions. So I do think, like you just said, Josh, if Memphis is able to, get Holmgren or Timme in some foul trouble early in the first half and build themselves a little bit of a lead and give themselves that buffer, they definitely have a better chance. But in a close game, I just really do not trust them to be able to get those quality possessions that it takes to win.
Yeah, I feel you. But we have Gonzaga moving on to Sweet 16. I think we all have UConn, Arkansas in the second round matchup. You talk about another polar opposite. UConn's defensive-minded, athletic. Arkansas wants to get up and down and push the pace. I've got UConn actually taking the Razorbacks down because the factor, we've talked about it all year essentially. JD Notae could go get you 40. But games like this where the tough defense, you go back to Tennessee just a week or two ago. He didn't have his best game because the defensive pressure Tennessee put on him. UConn will look to put that same kind of physicality and pressure on him, forcing him into some late shot clock shots, and he might have hit them. He's got all the talent in the world to hit some of those circus shots even and get him going. But if he doesn't hit, UConn will suffocate them. That's why I've got UConn moving to Sweet 16.
I agree with everything you said, but I have Arkansas moving on. I think this is potentially the best game of this first weekend of the tournament, because I think RJ Cole and JD Notae could potentially just get in a shootout in this one, each go for 30 plus and kind of have one of those legendary just back and forth type of scoring matchups. But I like Arkansas. I just going through the SEC was a grinder for them. And I think they're a little bit more battle tested. I know I've said that word a bunch, but I really do think it's important in March is just having those big games under your belt. And Odyssey Tony's back right now. So they're getting healthy at the right time. I like Arkansas to make a little run here.
My second round matchup, I got Connecticut taking on Vermont. And it's a little cool dynamic here because I mentioned it for Connecticut, they're the number one offensive rebounding team in the nation. And Vermont is the number one team when it comes to keeping teams off the offensive glass. So really it comes down to who's going to get more rebounds. Who's going to win the rebounding battle? Will it be Connecticut or will it be Vermont? I like Connecticut's chances, though. They got a lot better defense than what Vermont has. And I think they got a slight better offense than what Vermont has as well. Give me Connecticut in a really defensive battle, grind it out. Connecticut gets the job done. Goes to the Sweet 16.
The other matchups down here in the second round of the West region, we all have Rutgers versus Texas Tech. Rutgers, great season. We talked about their grittiness, but Texas Tech is the one team, the definition of gritty. Defense never rests for Mark Adams and company is what everybody kind of says. And it might be another ugly one. It could be another high 50s, low 60s type of game, but ultimately you're not going to out defense and out gritty Texas Tech. So I've got the Red Raiders moving on.
Yeah. Basically exactly the same reasoning that I have. Texas Tech moves on just because everything that Rutgers does well, Texas Tech does a little bit better.
Yeah, I got Texas Tech moving on as well, moving on to the Sweet 16. Can I take this next matchup?
Yeah, go ahead. We got Davidson and Duke.
Got 10 seed Davidson taking on 2 seed Duke. Duke in the past month, you've seen it in the Carolina game. You've seen it really in the Syracuse game. They're very lucky they didn't have Buddy Boeheim in that game because they potentially could have took an L in the semifinals against Syracuse in the ACC tournament. And you've seen it in the Virginia Tech game in the ACC final. Duke can't defend at all. Right now, I don't know what it is. They do got Defensive Player of the Year in the ACC, Mark Williams blocking shots. But that's really it. They can't get on the perimeter. They can't guard guys.
Well, Peyton, I mean, we've seen what Virginia Tech did to them. Davidson's going to do the exact same thing with extra shooters. They just won't have the size that Virginia Tech had, but it's kind of the same formula.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. Davidson can hit shots, the 8th in three-point percentage. This very well. I'm not going to predict it because I do think Duke, Paulo McCary will be the best player on the floor. He'll find a way to get some shots and make some tough buckets and really give Duke the chance to win this game. So I am predicting Duke. But if you predict Davidson to win this game, I don't blame you at all. It's a bad matchup for Duke, honestly.
Yeah, I mean, everything that Duke does poorly defensively is exactly what Davidson feasts on. I mean, you mentioned it. We've seen it in the ACC tournament, particularly in that Syracuse game. Duke they lose shooters through screens all the time. I mean, they lack a focus defensively. And Davidson's the perfect kind of team to take advantage of that. That being said, I agree with Peyton. I think Boncaro just takes this game over at a certain point. Mark Williams is going to keep absolutely everything out of the paint. So Davidson will have to rely pretty much solely on perimeter shooting. They already don't rebound the ball well, so I think Duke totally dominates there. And I think Duke's able to pull this out, but it's going to be a scare for them.
Well, I completely agree. The one thing we want to talk about, the same thing that Carolina and Virginia Tech did to Duke, though, in the last week, is pull Mark Williams and the bigs away from the rim. You talk about not chasing shooters. Davidson's going to be undersized more so than North Carolina and Virginia Tech was, but all 5 guys are going to be able to hit the 3 ball. if they can pull Mark Williams away, that opens the lane up. And if you start overcommitting and helping out on three-point shooters, it allows back cuts. Davidson runs great offense. If you overcommit, they will cut you to the rim. They could steal some easy buckets. I think this is a dangerous matchup for Duke, but I'm with the both of you. I think Dookie has enough. Barely. I think they have enough, though. I've got Duke going to the Sweet 16. Speaking of Sweet 16, let's get to our Sweet 16 matchups in the West region here. I've got Gonzaga, UConn. As good as defensively UConn is, I don't know if they'll be as good as Memphis, especially with the lack of athleticism that Memphis will be able to show Gonzaga. Gonzaga, I think, will overpower UConn and end up pulling away late. I've got Gonzaga moving to the Elite Eight.
Yeah, so my matchup here is Gonzaga versus Arkansas, and I have Gonzaga moving on to the Elite Eight as well. Just more depth than Arkansas. They have more options offensively. I think this is one of the games where Arkansas, is really going to have to rely on JD Note. He's probably the only, player they have, or one of maybe a couple players they have that would really garner playing time for Gonzaga. So I just think the talent gap is a little too much here, and Gonzaga takes it.
My Sweet 16 matchup is like Josh is Gonzaga versus Connecticut. As good as Connecticut is defensively, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Gonzaga's guard play with Andrew Nembhard, with Cyril Bolton, and Nolan Hickman coming off the bench. Too much for UConn to handle. Gonzaga goes to Elite Eight.
And then the other Sweet 16 matchup, we have Texas Tech Duke, fellas. We keep talking about Duke having bad matchup after bad matchup after bad matchup, and this is maybe the worst of all because Texas Tech's defense will grind them. Duke does not defend necessarily the greatest, but Texas Tech lives for defense, and they will grind this out. I've got the slight upset here. It's a 3-2, so it's not much of an upset, but I think in a lot of casual members' minds it will be for namesake. If you've not watched Texas Tech all year, they've got dudes that know how to play. They've got a first-year head coach that's been a long-time assistant, and they defend their ass off. They will muck this game up, drag Duke to the deep waters, which they are not comfortable because Duke wants to get up and have a bunch of possessions per game. Because of that, I think they force the action. Texas Tech suffocates them like a boa constrictor because the more you try to breathe in and exhale and try to get a breath, the constrictor gets a little tighter each time. Texas Tech to the Elite Eight for a Gonzaga matchup.
Yeah, I have the exact same pick here. Duke fans were already talking about it before the tournament that Texas Tech is one of the teams they did not want to see. Just a team that, like you said, matches up terrible for them. They're going to pressure the ball all game. They have, tournament experience, Kevin O'Banner. I love Texas Tech to just really you said it perfectly, Josh, just squeeze the life out of Duke in this one. And I honestly don't see it being that close. It's not going to be a 20-point game just because the style that Texas Tech plays, but I see it being an 8 to 12-point game kind of throughout, and Duke's really never able to get it within the possession.
We're all going to agree. Texas Tech goes through. Coach K goes home in this final game. Doesn't even make it to the Final Four, doesn't even make it to the Elite Eight. Texas Tech, we talked, Josh and Phil, I'm pretty sure we talked about it on episode 100 of the podcast. Duke, if they can't hit shots, they're in trouble in the tournament. And they're facing the number one defensive team in the nation in Texas Tech, who's also physical, who's also will be able to hit some shots as well. Texas Tech goes through. And I think I agree with Phil. I don't think it's going to be a blowout. I don't even know. It might not be in double digits. I don't really see Duke having a chance, really, especially late on in the game. I think it's going to be low scoring, low 60s, 66, 59.
Well, we talk about it. Duke's lack of three-point ability. We know A.J. Griffin's been lighting the nets up right around 50% on the year. Jeremy Roach has gotten better. Paolo's hit some here and there, but they're not consistent outside of one guy. And Texas Tech, you talk about the number one defense in America. They only allow teams to shoot 31% from three on them. Duke struggles shooting the three. If they're getting in this game, that means they have to force turnovers themselves, get easy transition buckets, and dominate the paint. And Texas Tech's not going to let you dominate the paint. We're all in agreement, man. Texas Tech to Elite Eight matchup with Gonzaga. So let's get into it. Who makes it out of the West to go to the Final Four? Is it the Gonzaga Bulldogs yet again in back-to-back seasons? Or in his first year at Texas Tech, is it Mark Adams and company?
I'll go first on this one. I got Texas Tech beating Gonzaga, and it's simple for me. We kind of already mentioned a couple matchups ago. Drew Timmy, when he faces physical teams, he shies away from it. And if you can take him out of the game, you have a legitimate chance to win this ball game. And Texas Tech is a physical, hard-nosed, defensive-minded team. My only question for them is, can they hit enough shots to pick Gonzaga away? I think they will. I think their defense is going to stifle Gonzaga, especially their backcourt. And I think the physicality is going to eat Chet Holmgren and Drew Timmy alive in this game. Texas Tech goes to the Final Four.
I'm with you, man. I got Texas Tech for all the reasons you said. Defensively, the toughness. I don't know if Timmy can hold up yet again to it. It's a stereotype for a reason because it happens time and time again when he plays teams that make him uncomfortable. And I think Texas Tech locks us up. I think Texas Tech wins the West region. They go into the Final Four.
Yeah, I got to disagree with you guys here. I like the Zags here. Texas Tech, they do have the number 1 defense in the country via KenPom, but Gonzaga's not that far behind at number 7. And the gap between the two teams offensively is pretty massive. And I think Gonzaga is able to, separate themselves in the middle of the second half with, like Josh talked about it a couple games ago, just a big run. They are as, I don't even know how to put it, as runnable, I guess, as anybody in the country. And I see them taking this one, again, not in a blowout, but comfortably, 8 to 10 points.
So that is the West region. Let's go over to the number 2-1 seed overall. Let's go over to the South region. Arizona is the number 1 seed in the South. They'll play in winner between Wright State and Bryant. It doesn't matter who they play, even without Kirk Kriisa. By the way, his ankle looks disgusting right now. Phil, I know you mentioned Texas earlier today about it. I've finally seen it. His ankle looks bad. That does not look like an ankle that could be ready back for the tournament anytime soon. But regardless, they should have no problem disposing of Wright State or Bryant.
Yeah, I would give Bryant a better shot than Wright State just for the simple fact that they have Peter Kiss, who, you have one of those guys who can go off for 40 points in a game. You have a slight chance. That's not to say I'm picking Bryant. I definitely have Arizona coming out of this one.
Peyton, that's what he said. He said Bryant over Arizona. I hope everybody takes this down. Phil said Bryant over Arizona.
Yeah,
I did not say that before all these fucking Arizona fans are fucking flooding my Twitter.
No, I'm clipping it, posting it on our TikTok. We got it on live on air. He picked Bryant to beat Arizona. I'm going to go the opposite. I'm going to say Arizona wins.
I mean, fucking Phil just picking random people like this, just being the contrarian.
I had to come in here and be a son of a bitch. I couldn't just let it go.
He likes the name Peter Kiss. I think that's what it is. I really just want to hear Raftery,
with Kiss with a Kiss.
I know. A little Peter with the kiss. Oh, God, there's so many funny things that can be played off that. We're going to move on, though, before we get in some trouble. The 8-9 matchup's interesting. I think this is obviously in 8-9, there's not a whole lot of difference, but you look at Seton Hall as the 8, TCU as the 9. They're so identical in profiles and not necessarily the way they play, but they're so identical. This is as close to the 8-9 matchup as far as profiles can get. It's a real pick 'em. You either want to go with Seton Hall's size or you want to go with TCU's grittiness, the way they were able to beat Kansas and others like them in a very good Big 12 conference. And also you got to take in fact that Seton Hall, Bryce Aiken, not really been available, not been the healthiest all year. TCU's been playing better. Like I said, they beat Kansas in the last 2 weeks, had them almost beat for a second time in 3 days. So what say you guys? Seton Hall or TCU?
I like Seton Hall in this one. You mentioned the big factor for me is Seton Hall's length. When we talked to John Fanta a couple weeks ago, I was just shocked to hear that they were the longest team in the Big East. And I like that they're able to score at a little bit higher of a clip than TCU. You said this is really a toss-up. The teams are very, very similar, and I just personally sort of lean towards Seton Hall.
Hey, Peyton, you heard him, though. He wants Seton Hall, the longest team, to play Bryant, Peter Kiss in the second round. The longest team playing Peter Kiss? Phil, what is wrong with you tonight?
It's not about length. It's about girth.
Listen, I'm mad you just mentioned that because I was going to go ask him. I was like, damn, how long is it? But moving on, I think I got TCU winning this game. If you look at TCU's remaining games, like the last 4 games of the regular season, 2 games in the Big 12 tournament, they beat Texas Tech at home by 3, beat Kansas 10, almost beat them again, lost to West Virginia, beat Texas, and lost to Kansas in the semi or the Big 12 conference tournament. I think this is going to be a close one. I'll give it to TCU, though. They'll find a way to come out on top.
Yeah, I got TCU. I like their momentum a little bit more than Seton Hall, even though we talked about it, Phil and John Fanta talked about it, their size and length. But I just there's something about TCU. They're one of those teams that you don't expect them to win, but yet they right there in a lot of big ball games. I can't really say the same for Seton Hall this year. And again, if they had a healthy Bryce Aiken that was at full strength, a Harvard Bryce Aiken, I'd probably go with Seton Hall in this one. But I'm rolling with TCU in this one. 5-12. Let's pull it up in the chat here. We had a chat just a little bit ago. Right here. We can't see who it is because they didn't leave their name, but
it's I got the video up. It's Riley Palmer.
Oh, Riley Palmer. What's up, Riley? UAB, a good 12 seed upset. Jordan Walker is a dog. Well, let's talk about it. 5-seeded Houston, 12 UAB. We've talked about it for the last 2 months now. Houston, as soon as they lost their 2 top players, they've not really been that same high-profile team because they were trending towards a 2 seed at one point in the year, falling off, losing twice to Memphis, even though they did win the AAC tournament, but I think the committee really punished them for not being at full strength. This is an interesting matchup. Nina, I know they won the AAC tournament yesterday over Memphis, but is anybody really that confident in Houston? And like Riley mentioned, Jordan Walker is a dog. UAB is pretty good. Do we feel that confident in Houston?
No. First of all, y'all put some respect on his name. That's Jelly Walker.
That's right.
But no, I think this is one of the trendier upset picks. But in this case, I don't think it's just everybody jumping on the bandwagon. I really do think there's a reason for it. Houston's kind of trended down. I know they had the big win over Memphis yesterday, but they played well through a weak AAC. But you mentioned it without Sasser and Trayvon Mark. I just don't think they're the same team. And I think UAB has the best player on the floor here and takes it.
Well, even Fabian White, I know he, if I remember right, he played some yesterday, but he got injured, though, in the AAC tournament. So is he at full strength, too? That would be 3 of their top 5 missing potentially or not at full strength. And keep in mind real quick, I know I cut Peyton off, but UAB's 9th in the nation in three-point shooting, 38.4%. Houston's 11th in three-point defense. Teams are going to shoot 29%. So it's easy to narrow it down to just kind of that one stat, but it could really become the big factor. If UAB hits threes or if Houston limits them, I think it's a huge game within the game there. But I've got UAB on the upset.
You both almost convinced me to go with you on this upset. I'm just not going to do it. Houston's top 10 in offense, they're 11th in defense, 3rd in offensive rebound percentage, 22nd in 2-point percentage, and top 15 in block percentage. Yeah, I know they play in the weak AAC, and they pretty much just ran through everybody in the conference tournament, pretty much beat everybody by double digits. But I still think Houston will be able to get the job done here and beat UAB. I think it's going to be a close one, though. It's definitely going to be a nail-biter. I don't see Houston blowing them out, not by a long shot. So Houston gets the job done in a close one.
Phil, let's go to your boys. They're a 4 seed playing a dangerous 13 seed. We've spent a lot of the last couple of weeks talking about the Chattanooga Mocs. They end up winning at the buzzer to win the SoCon tournament over Furman to even get in the big dance. We know how good Chattanooga is. Silvio D'Souza and company. But Illinois is still Illinois. I think Illinois needs to hit some shots, get back to shooting the 3-ball really well from Plummer and company. I like Illinois in this, but I text you as soon as the draw came out. As far as a 13 seed, this is a tough matchup for your Illini.
Yeah, I do agree, but I'm going to just go out and say that unless Paul Heyman is courtside to give Silvio D'Souza a chair, then Kofi is going to fucking handle him. And the Mocs luck runs out here. I think that they got lucky to beat Furman, to be honest with you. You know how big of a Furman guy I am. But I think Illinois just has too much for him.
I agree. I think this could potential be an upset. However, Kofi Coburn, monster, and Andre Cobello has elite court vision. I don't know, Phil, I know you couldn't really watch that game, so I think you was at work. Did you see that pass in transition against IU? That was probably one of the best passes I've ever seen in my life.
Brother, he made a one-handed wraparound bounce pass through like two dudes that whoever was on the run on the money.
Yeah, no, I seen the highlights of it after the fact, and Curbelo has those capabilities. I just wish he would make a regular pass occasionally. It feels like he always tries to do that shit in the worst possible moment.
I just don't want our listeners sleeping on Chattanooga. If you've heard us over the last couple months, we've talked about how good Chattanooga is. Sylvia D'Souza, former Kansas guy, Malachi Smith, David John Baptiste, the one that hit the game winner against Furman, Darius Banks, AJ Caldwell. This is an experienced Chattanooga Mocs team. I'm telling you, they're no joke. They are no joke. I do think I'm in agreement with all of you guys. I think Illinois is going to be a little too much the mustard for them down the end. But do not sleep on the Mocs. All I'm saying is if the last under TV timeout, the under 4 timeout is within a possession or two, I'm not going to be surprised at all.
No, absolutely. In all seriousness, I do think the Mocs have a great chance of pulling this one off. Like you said, they're a really deep, talented team. They have some guys that have transferred in from bigger programs, so they have some experience there. It wouldn't shock me at all if they pull this one off. I just think Illinois has a little bit more firepower.
I personally think, sorry to interrupt you, Josh, but I personally think that if Chattanooga wants to win this game, if they can get Kofi Coburn in foul trouble, especially early on in the game, and take him off the floor as much as possible, especially within like the last 5 minutes of the second half of the game, they could win this damn game. It could. However, Kofi Coburn, I don't think he'll get in foul trouble, and I think he'll dominate this whole game.
Well, Chattanooga is so good. They're 41st in the nation in 2-point percentage. They finish around the rim. They know how to score. I think Illinois needs to be very wary. They need to hit threes. That's kind of been when they're really good this year. Plummer and companies hit like 9, 10, 11 threes a game. But there's been times that they've shot themselves out of ball games too. NCAA tournament sites, people need to keep in mind too. Normally, they're playing on sites that aren't basketball ready, meaning having games normally played on. They're normally like stadiums that are for hockey or football that has been turned into a basketball, and normally shooting percentages are down. So it's the teams who can get to the rim and can get offensive rebounds are the ones who traditionally do better in these type of environments. If Illinois is not hitting and Chattanooga's really good at attacking the rim and finishing, that's a key matchup there. Despite Kofi in the middle, Illinois' got to be very wary. I know their MOs to hit threes and to take them, but if they're not hitting, they're going to play right in the hands of Chattanooga in this one.
Real quick, before we move on to this next 6-11 matchup, Phil, you talked about maybe if Chattanooga wants to win this game, maybe they can, if they have Paul Hamm on the sideline, they can throw Sylvia D'Souza a chair. How about this? A good game plan for Chattanooga. How about Paul Heyman does come out, throws Sylvia D'Souza a chair. He smacks him on the ground like Eddie Guerrero, throws it to Kofi Coburn and just drops dead, act like he got killed. And Kofi Coburn gets out of the game. How about that? Would that work for you?
Catches the flagrant too. Maybe if we get the same officials from that Duke or from the Syracuse Florida State game,
Oh my God.
Then we could have something like that go down.
Hey, just hope you don't have SEC officials. That's all you got to hope for. Hope you don't have SEC officials.
Well,
hey, let's talk.
If we got Paul Heyman there, who knows? Maybe Earl Hebner is one of the officials.
Let's move on though to the 6-11 matchup. Colorado State got screwed, and this is probably the most controversial seeding of all the. Well, right there in a few of them, but Michigan's on an 11 seed. They're 17-14 on the year. Some say they should have maybe not have been in the tournament, but they not only were they in the tournament, they were safely in. They got one of the last 4 byes over Indiana, who beat them in the first game of their Big Ten tournament that those two teams played. They beat them. We'll get to Indiana. I think Michigan should be counting their lucky stars, and you got to feel for Colorado State. This is a good Colorado State team, as by the 6th seed, they've got David Roddy, the player of the year in his conference. But everybody, I think, leans towards Colorado State because Michigan is so you never know what you're going to get from them. But the fact that Michigan's in, this is a whole new season. Everybody knows that when it comes to postseason. And the fact of the matter is, despite 14 losses, despite the seeding, despite maybe they should have been in the tournament or not, Michigan still got a load of talent. You got to feel bad for Colorado State on this draw.
Michigan is 17-14 overall record. They didn't even win a game in the Big Ten tournament. They got beat by IU, and somehow they're comfortably in. You gotta be shitting me. That is ridiculous. Like you said, I feel bad for Colorado State. I think actually Colorado State, because at one point at the start of the season, they're shooting like 42% from three. Like at the time, they was the number one 3-point shooting team in the nation. They've kind of dropped down. They've kind of cooled off a little bit. They're still like maybe I think top 100, top 80 last time I checked on them. I still think they'll win this game. But fuck, man, this is a tough matchup for them. They got screwed on this part. Michigan should not be. If they're going to say Michigan's in, that's fine. But they need to play in a playing game, not comfortably in as an 11 seed playing Colorado State.
Yeah, at 17-14, like you mentioned, there's no way they should have been comfortably in here. They shouldn't have been ahead of Indiana. Could probably argue that they should have been out of the tournament altogether. Honestly, I would have had Texas A&M in ahead of them. But just looking at this matchup, I agree with you guys that Colorado State kind of got screwed here. The teams profile very, very similarly. I mean, 31 in KenPom for Colorado State, 33 for Michigan. They're both right around 20 in offense, both right around 85, 90 in defense, play almost exactly the same tempo. I mean, they're pretty much mirror images of each other. I do worry about Colorado State being able to handle the size inside with Hunter Dickinson. And I think that's probably the advantage for Michigan. And I'm going to pick Michigan in this one.
So here's what I'm thinking. Even in the last, I think we've seen him really start to turn it on finally when they went to Indiana and beat them in January. Caleb Houston finally started to play well down the stretch, being at 6'8", whatever he is, 6'7", 6'8", that wing, more modern basketball wing. He started to shoot the three ball really well. Hunter Dickinson's been up and down, but started to play a little better heading into the conference tournament. I've got Colorado State. KenPom's got Colorado State by 1.7271. David Roddy's a monster. I know most of the nation is going to get a chance to see him for the first time. We've seen him pretty much the whole year paying attention like we do, but this is a tough matchup, man, because if the good Michigan shows up, Colorado State's in trouble because they do hit the three ball well. They defend. Their size is up and down the board better than Colorado State. But I'm going to say that because of the inconsistency, I'm going to say Colorado State edges this one out, but just don't be surprised if Michigan can put it together and make a run.
Yep, I agree. Moving on to the next matchup, we got 3 seed Tennessee taking on 14 seed Longwood. The Lancers, listen.
Shout out the Lancers.
Shout out the Lancers. Listen, shout out to Longwood, the Lancers, for making the tournament. First time ever, right?
Yeah.
You're facing one of the hottest teams in the country right now.
Talking about getting screwed on their seeding.
Oh, yeah. Well, yeah, not Memphis. Tennessee should have been a 2 seed. Just saying. However, they're not. They're playing as a 3 seed, and they're going to beat the living shit out of Longwood.
Yeah.
It's pretty self-explanatory. It's pretty simple. So.
Yeah, their defense, and the thing about Tennessee, and we'll save it for the other matchups really in depth, but Tennessee's defense has been elite all year, top 5, top 3, top 5. But the fact over the matter is, since the Kentucky game, they've shot the lights out of the ball essentially, and that's the big deal. Tennessee wins this one very easily.
Yeah, you guys mentioned it. I actually feel bad for Longwood here. I think they're a good team. I think they got kind of fucked by somebody getting underseeded. And Tennessee is just going to blow them out here. But shout out to Longwood and Griff Aldrich. Great season.
Here's another interesting 7-10 matchup, Ohio State versus Loyola Chicago. Ohio State, we just don't know what we're getting with them. They've got E.J. Liddell, Big Ten all-first team in our books, are right there in contention. But Loyola Chicago, I know they faltered at the end of the regular season, but they were able to put it together, win the Missouri Valley, and get the auto bid. They play really good defense. They're tough-minded. I think this is another pick 'em.
Yeah, I mean, I would agree somewhat to that. I think no matter what, Ohio State will always will have the best player on the floor in E.J. Liddell. on both sides of the ball, offense, and I picked him for my Big Ten Defensive Player of the Year last week. So both sides of the ball, he's going to be the best player on the court. However, I think Loyola Chicago has more depth than Ohio State does. I think Loyola Chicago gets the job done. Upsets, if you want to call it an upset, I guess 10 over 7. I guess that is seeding wise called an upset. But Ohio State, they just haven't really got too many production out of anyone else besides EJ Liddell. I know Malachi Branham's starting to play a little bit better, but still, someone needs to help EJ Liddell. So Loyola Chicago goes to knocks off the Buckeyes.
I disagree with you, Peyton. I think EJ Liddell is going to be enough for Ohio State to take this one. As much as I love Loyola's depth, it worries me a little bit that they don't really have that one guy that they can lean on, for a big night. I mean, Lucas Williamson's capable of it, absolutely, but he only averages 14 a game on the year. Braden Norris, just over 10. Those are their only 2 scorers in double figures. I just think EJ Liddell is too much for him here. And Loyola kind of faltered down the stretch, too. They were able to get it back together for the Missouri Valley Conference, but they did not play well in regular season conference play.
Yeah, and that's why I say it's a toss-up, right? Can Ohio State's offense go against a really good defense? You got to shout out Drew Valentine, though. His first season as a head coach, got Loyola, the Ramblers, back in the tournament. I like the defense in this aspect. I think Loyola is going to be able to muck it up. It's not like Ohio State is not capable because they came out of the Big Ten. They understand how to play in low possession games, but there's something about Loyola in the tournament over the last 5 years that they understand how to win. They understand what it takes. And I think the defense wins in this case right here. I've got Loyola on the slight upset here, knocking Ohio State off. Then we get down to the 2 seed Villanova against 15 Delaware. Delaware, Phil, I know you did a guest spot yesterday, and I was listening to the show for. By the way, you have to shout out that show you're on. But they were talking about Delaware potentially giving Villanova some fits because they play downhill and like to get up and down the floor. Maybe put Villanova outside their comfort zone, but I just don't see it. Villanova wins the Big East Conference. They look damn good. They look like another Jay Wright title contender right now. And at the end of the day, they've got probably the best closer in college basketball and Colin Gillespie. Villanova easily.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. And you mentioned the spot I did yesterday was on the Dan Siegel show. So a big thank you to him for having me on. We got into the most likely upsets among seeds, and he did, he wasn't picking Delaware, but he was, getting at the fact that they're probably the most likely to pull this upset off. I do not like them at all in this game. I don't want to get too much into it because I don't want to spoil my bracket, but just I'm a big Villanova fan. Love Jay Wright. They have a ton of experience. I'm a little concerned with their lack of depth, but I don't think that comes to play in the first round. So I think Villanova takes this one easily.
Yep, I'm going to agree. Villanova wins this game by a lot.
Let's go to the second round. I have Arizona, TCU. Peyton, you do as well. TCU, again, we've talked about glowingly Jamie Dixon and the job he does. He's a tremendous coach. Look, Pittsburgh, TCU, but they run out. Even without Kirk Kriisa, they'll have enough. I think they win comfortably. The size is way too much for TCU.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Arizona takes this one. I do think this is where we start to get into the territory of Kirk Kriisa's injury potentially playing a factor. But I think Arizona is just way too much. And they have so much beyond Kirk Kriisa. Ben Mathurin is fucking phenomenal. They have size.
Well, how good did Dalen Terry look the other night in the Pac-12 championship game against UCLA?
Yeah. He was shooting the lights out. And we've talked about Dalen Terry on this podcast before. He just does a little bit of everything. I think he's going to be a really, really solid NBA player.
Hey, shout out to Dalen Terry, too, in my College Hoops 2K8 legacy. He decided to transfer from Arizona to West Carolina, where we're at. So what's that?
Hell yeah. I'll take him as a teammate. That's for sure. But, yeah, like I said, I just think Arizona has way too much for Seton Hall, even if Kriisa isn't, playing. So Arizona big in this one.
Yes, sir. Arizona goes through by a lot.
Then we got in the another second round game. I've got UAB and Illinois. We talked about UAB, their ability to shoot the three and stretch it out, but they're playing a team like, again, we talked about with Illinois and Chattanooga. Illinois is going to light the rims up if they can get going. They're going to want to be able to push the ball. I like their depth at the backcourt and inside. Of course, you can't forget Kofi and the big man. And you got to give some love to Omar Payne, the Florida transfer. He started to turn it on as the season went on, playing backup minutes to Kofi. That's two big monsters coming in back to back. I like Illinois in this matchup.
I have Houston as a 5 seed taking on 4 seed Illinois. And Viva Cook 4 years ago, Houston, we have a problem, and his name is Kofi Coburn. He is going to dominate this game, both sides of the floor, mainly on offense. Houston's not going to have an answer for him down low. So, unless they foul him every single possession, which even then, I really don't know if they're actually do that or not. Either way, Illinois gets the job done. Houston gets knocked out of the tournament.
Yeah, I have a UAB in Illinois as well, as Josh did. And I really thought long and hard about UAB here. I think Illinois ultimately pulls it out. UAB is a top 30 offense. They love to push the pace. So I do think this could potentially be an issue for Illinois. But Illinois is so much better on defense than UAB is. And I think Trent Frazier has the potential to really slow Jelly Walker down, and that would completely take UAB out of it. So I like Illinois in this one.
The other two second-round matchups with Sweet 16 berths on the line, we'll just kind of go through them. I've got Michigan and Tennessee. I've got Colorado State and Tennessee. We talked about Colorado State, David Roddy and company, but Tennessee's as hot as anybody in the country right now. Their defense, their ability to hit the shots now. You have their Adu stepping up down on the block. I mean, they're just deep everywhere. Kenny Chandler is just playing. He's got maybe the best mid-range game in college basketball with the floater game as well. Tennessee wins this one. Michigan, or I'm sorry, I keep saying Michigan. Colorado State could make it interesting for a half, but Tennessee is going to pull away.
Yeah, and I have Tennessee, Michigan in this one, but totally agree. Same thing you said. Tennessee, just Kennedy Chandler is going to be the best player on the floor by far. Tennessee is more consistent. They're better defensively. Tennessee takes this one easily.
Yeah, Tennessee. I got Tennessee taking on Colorado State like Josh does. Tennessee I'd say by 15 or more. Tennessee's defense is going to stifle them. We're going to hit some shots. And Kennedy Chandler is a guy who really doesn't get any love when it comes to freshman of the year, just because you got other guys, Chet Holmgren, Paulo Banchero, and Jabari Smith. He's probably the fourth best freshman in the nation, in my opinion. Insane. He's been playing great all season long. Tennessee wins by 15 or more.
And then the other second round matchup, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time on this. It's Loyola. For me, it's Loyola Chicago against Villanova. Loyola, what they like to do best, Villanova does the same thing, but better with better players. Villanova handily over Loyola Chicago. Sets up a hell of a Sweet 16 I can't wait to talk about.
Yeah, Villanova easily over Loyola Chicago. Again, I think Villanova's biggest issue is depth, and that will come into play later in the tournament.
Yep, I got Nova going through as well.
Now let's talk about these Sweet 16 matchups. Oh my God. And I think in all of our cases, it held chalk. We've got Arizona, Illinois in the 05 rematch of a classic we're going to review in the offseason as a watch along. Arizona sides, this is where Kirk Kriisa needs to be back for Arizona, because if not, Illinois' backcourt could easily eat Arizona up. Kofi down low against Christian Koloko, one of the best defensive players in college basketball, really the anchor and what gets Arizona going and gets them out in transition, protects the paint for them, allows their guards to cheat up. We always talk about having a rim protector, allows your guards to cheat sometimes, and because you have an eraser in the back. This is going to be a hell of a game. I think this could be an explosive. Both teams want to get up and both teams want to score. I think at the end of the day, if Illinois is not hitting enough shots, I think, especially if Kirk Kriisa is back, that's the one caveat. I can easily see Illinois winning this game and taking the 1 seed out. But I'm assuming he'll be back. I'm assuming he's going to play big minutes. And because of that, I think Arizona wins a shootout, an instant classic yet again every time these two teams match up. Arizona in a high-scoring game, but a beautiful game to watch.
Yeah, I like Arizona in this one as well, as much as it pains me to say. And even before that 05 matchup, Illinois and Arizona have some history back in the 2001 tournament as well, matched up in the Elite Eight. But I just think Illinois' biggest advantage is normally Kofi Coburn, and Christian Koloko is going to be able to neutralize that. And I don't mean this as a criticism of Brad Underwood in any way, but I think Tommy Lloyd just, runs better offensive sets. I think they're more consistent offensively, and I think they're going to be able to get buckets when they need to.
Man, I can't tell if it's 2022 or 2005. I think this match is going to be in the high 80s. It's going to be a shootout, like Josh said.
Yep.
Quick question, because I actually don't know. I think I'll have my answer. I know who I'm going to pick anyways. Who do you think the best player on the floor will be?
Boy, it depends, right? If it's a backcourt matchup, I think Illinois favors slightly. I don't know. That's a good question. I depends on how the game's played and how it's called. If it's a ticky-tack game, then that normally will favor the inside play. To me, that would probably be Kofi. Mm-hmm. I don't know. These teams are very similar in a lot of ways. I don't know. There's a lot of talent on the floor. I know that much.
There's definitely a lot of talent on the floor.
I would probably have to go with Ben Mathurin as the most talented, best player on the floor. And I do think if it ultimately comes down to somebody having to take over, Arizona has the advantage with that.
As do I. That's why I got the Wildcats going through, knocking off Illinois.
Me as well.
How about this? This might be the best Sweet 16 game we get all tournament. 3 seed Tennessee, 2 seed Villanova. I went back and forth who I had in this one. You talking about Villanova wants to play a slow down game, but look for their opportunities to run. Tennessee, the top 5 defense, they have all the weapons and size needed to negate Villanova's small lineup. But we've talked about Colin Gillespie's probably the best closer in college basketball. Jay Wright's got the tournament experience. Villanova's still got a couple kids like Gillespie that understand what it takes to win a national championship. They were on Villanova's last title team. This is a crazy, crazy game. It might come down who has the final possession. I went Villanova just because of the Jay Wright and Colin Gillespie factor, despite how great Tennessee is. But I do think it depends on Tennessee's ability to hit shots. We talked about it. When they turn their season around, you go back to the Texas Tech game, ugly game. But you look ever since Kentucky ran them off the floor in Rupp Arena, they still shot like 50% from the field, 79 points. Kentucky was just unstoppable that day. Ever since then, Tennessee's been able to hit threes. Josiah Jordan-James stretching the floor, hitting shots. They got their bigs inside rebounding. We've talked about Kennedy Chandler. Santiago Vescovi's lighting it up from 3, controlling the game. But there's something about Villanova right now that gives me flashbacks to when they won their 2 titles in the last 5 years. I like Villanova in a great, great close game in this one.
Real quick, Don Lucas on Facebook, he just commented and said this should be a Elite 8 matchup, not Sweet 16. I think this could potentially be a Final 4 matchup, let alone a Sweet 16 or even an Elite 8 matchup. These 2 teams are very, very talented. You look at Villanova, like Josh said, Colin Gillespie, the best closer in college basketball. Tennessee, one of the best freshmen in the nation, Kennedy Chandler. It's tough. Tennessee, ever since Josh kind of alluded to it, Tennessee, ever since Kentucky blew them out in Rupp Arena, they've won 15 of the last 17 games, including winning the SEC Tournament championship. Ridiculous. And even in that game, like Josh said in Rupp, they still hit a lot of shots. Kentucky played a lot better than they did and ended up winning that game. Tennessee's one of the hottest teams in the nation. This is tough. This could be one of those potential, game of the tournaments. I'm excited to watch this matchup if it does play out. I think I'm going to go with Tennessee, though. I think Tennessee might have more depth than Villanova does. Huge fan of Colin Gillespie, but Volunteers, they are on fire right now. Tennessee goes through to the Elite 8.
Yeah, I think this matchup is probably the best matchup of backcourts in the entire tournament between Kennedy Chandler and Zakai Ziegler on Tennessee, and then Justin Moore and Colin Gillespie for Villanova. I really think that's going to be just an electric matchup to watch. But I like Villanova moving on in this one. Colin Gillespie, it's hard to believe because it seems like a long time ago, but he was on that national championship team. And he's played for 1,000 years, so it doesn't it gets kind of lost. But
same with John Fulkerson. He's on the Tennessee side. He's been there forever. And
yeah.
I think the thing you have to keep in mind with Tennessee is a guy like Fulkerson who will put his nose in and do the ugly stuff, the stuff that'll piss you off. Taking a flop that'll get called a charge late in the game, getting an offensive rebound, and you cannot forget Zakai Ziegler. his development has really sparked Tennessee, because even though he's a freshman, he really is kind of turning into the leader of this fall's team. It'll be so fun watching him pick up Colin Gillespie, because Gillespie, normally in the SEC, the guards aren't going to post up, but Villanova loves running inverted offense, where Colin Gillespie will take him to the block and go to work. So it's going to be interesting, that little chess matchup between Rick Barnes and Jay Wright in this one. What a game.
Yeah, not even that. Look at the play of Santiago Vescovi over the past month. He's been playing a lot better. He's been hitting the shots. He's been defending a little bit. And not only him, but Josiah Jordan-James, I feel like finally starting to adapt into that role where he can be a big-time piece for Tennessee. He came in as a 5-star freshman, 2 years ago, last year, and he really hasn't fully tap into his potential. And I think this year, especially the second half of the year, he's starting to play a lot better. Tennessee, man, they're just loaded. Tennessee goes through, in my opinion.
What a game, though. And then we have in the Elite Eight, the berth for the winner of the South region going to the Final Four. I have Arizona, Villanova in a 1-2 matchup. Again, another classic game, potentially. Arizona's size, this is where I think Villanova runs into a lot of problems. I think especially if they have to play a tough matchup 2 days prior against Tennessee with their size and defense, Arizona is going to be a different change of pace. They will have size, but they will want to push the ball, and Villanova wants to limit possessions like we talked about. But I think Arizona can get out and cause some turnovers for live ball, turnovers that lead to buckets. If Arizona can get up early, Villanova is going to struggle to try to get back in the game. I've got Arizona winning and going to the Final Four.
Yeah, and honestly, I think Arizona is a really tough matchup for Villanova. That's the same matchup that I have here in the Elite Eight. And for the reason you mentioned, it's mainly the size. Villanova does not have a whole lot of size down low that's going to be able to match up with Coloco. I like Villanova to take it, though. It's hard for me to pick against Colin Gillespie and the experience that Villanova has in that backcourt. I think Villanova is going to be able to kind of throw Arizona off with slowing that pace down, turn it into, really have to value each possession. And I think Nova takes a absolute barn burner by 1 point.
I have Arizona taking on Tennessee in a rematch from the late December game, December 22nd, the game that Tennessee won on their home floor in Thompson-Boling Arena, 77-73. That was on December 22nd. These two teams are completely different from that in the first matchup until now, in my opinion. I think both of these teams are a lot better than when they first locked horns in late December in that game. But like I just mentioned, that game was in Thompson-Boling Arena. And that's a tough-ass place to play at. Hell, Josh, you know better than anyone on this podcast how tough it is to go into Thompson-Boling Arena and come out with a W.
Yeah. Can I say hell with that orange, though?
You can do it all you want. I don't care. I agree with you. But anyhow, this is on a neutral court. I think Arizona is better. As hard as Tennessee is, Arizona is, I think, just slightly better. And I think Benedict Mathurin is the best player on the court when it comes down to these two teams going head-to-head. Different matchup. Tennessee won the first one. Arizona gets the job done, gets the revenge, punches the ticket into the Final Four in another hell of a game, probably another high 80s game.
Yeah, that region, first and second round matchups, there's some decent ones, but that could potentially be the best Sweet 16, second weekend games we get between Sweet 16 Elite 8. Let's go down to, we have half the Final Four set. Let's move down to the Midwest where Kansas is the 1 seed. Guys, I don't want to spend a whole lot of time on some of these because I think there's some really good ones, don't get me wrong, but Kansas is the one. They're going to play the play-in winner between Texas Southern and Texas A&M Corpus Christi. It doesn't matter which Texas school. Kansas is going to continue to dominate the state of Texas. Kansas wins that one. Then we've got 8-9 San Diego State Creighton. San Diego State very good defensively. Creighton playing a lot better. They gave Villanova a run for their money for the majority of that Big East championship game. I've got Creighton winning this game. I like the offense a little bit more than San Diego State's defense can provide for a full 40 minutes. But what say you guys? You got San Diego State or Creighton?
Go ahead, Phil.
Clayton.
No,
go
ahead. Son of a bitch. I guess I'll go first. I'll go first then. I'm going to go with Josh. I got Creighton winning this game.
Yeah, I'm with both you guys. I think Creighton, like Josh said, is a little bit better offensively and is very underrated defensively. They're the best defensive team in the Big East this season, and I look for them to, win this game pretty handily.
We talk about offense. We talk about red hot teams right now. We go to the 5-12 matchup of Iowa against Richmond. Richmond being the only true bid stealer in. They're probably the team that kept Texas A&M out of the dance, to be completely honest, this year. They took the A-10 title over Davidson. We know how good and experienced their backcourt is, and really their whole starting five, Jacob Gilliard and stuff. He's going to be a defensive pest, but Iowa has one of the best offenses in college basketball. They are putting crazy offensive numbers up right now. Unless Richmond can frustrate them early and keep this a low possession game and really get out on shooters. I mean, I've heard some guys today talking about the tournament not necessarily regret their pick of Big Ten Player of the Year of Johnny Davis, but maybe they should have given the nod to Keegan Murray. Keegan Murray this last week and a half has proven himself. He's right there for not only Big Ten, but National Player of the Year. The kid's phenomenal. He looks like a lottery pick. Iowa routs Richmond in this game.
Absolutely, same boat. Iowa actually took over as number one offensive team in KenPom this past week, and like you said, Keegan Murray is just dominant. Iowa's going to win this one absolutely huge, maybe biggest margin of victory in the first round.
Yeah, I agree with both of you guys, especially what Phil just said. This could be a potential 20-point, 30-point blowout. Iowa gets the job done.
So we go to the 4-13 Providence, regular season Big East co-champs. They played 13 South Dakota State, winners of 30 games this year. I think they're on a 21-game win streak right now. This is a sexy upset right here. Peyton, I know you're going to dive into it for a minute. I'm going to beat you to the punch, though. As much as we've loved Providence this year, as much as we loved Ed Cooley, he's probably National Coach of the Year, Phil. You know how much we've talked about him and loved him. But they've not looked good since winning that Big East title and throwing that parade and Fanta being the celebrity down there in Providence. Dude, you got to ride the hot team, and South Dakota State can fill the nets up. My God, can they light it up? I mean, you don't win 30. I don't care if they're in a low major or not. They can score the basketball, and Providence is one of those teams that, as gritty as they are, I don't know if their style is conducive to play behind. And I think South Dakota State can put them down as many as 10 to 12 points and maybe keep them in arm's bay. It will depend if South Dakota State can get the tempo where they want it and hit shots, obviously. But, man, I've got the 13-4 upset here.
I just want to put this out here real quick since he jumped the gun and went before me. I messaged them yesterday and pretty much said, I pretty much spoiled it. I was going to predict this upset. I took notes on South Dakota State about a week ago before the tournament even started. Before, I don't know if the conference tournament even started by then. Just because someone asked, I think Don Lucas asked the question, like, who's some mid-major teams that can make a run? And I immediately thought of South Dakota State. Here's why this upset's going to happen. South Dakota State is 12th in offense, first in effective field goal percentage. The number one three-point shooting team in the country.
Oh, we've got goosebumps. Look at that.
They're 10th in two-point percentage, 4th in steal percentage. They have a big three of Douglas Wilson, 16.5 points per game. Baylor Schneiderman, 16.2 points per game. Nate Friedel, 14.2 points per game. All three of these guys, by the way, shoot over 40% from three. And like Josh mentioned, South Dakota State has won 21 games in a row.
The number one, I was just going to help you out. The number one three-point shooting team in America, 44.2%.
I love Ed Cooley. He'll probably win my National Player of the Year. Spoiler alert, don't care.
National coach.
National coach. They're taking the upset here. South Dakota State. Shout out to Tyler Cook. I don't give a damn thing I got Mike Dom on the team or not. They still got some dogs on this team, and my God, they can light it up. Down goes Providence. Let's go, the Jackrabbits.
Hey, Phil, before you chime in real quick, Peyton talked about three-point shooting. They've got two dudes that rank in the top 20 nationally. Two that rank top 20 nationally in three-point shooting percentage that play significant minutes.
You guys touched on it. They're just an unbelievable offensive team. And as good as they are on offense, they are almost equally as bad defensively. They rank 220th, which is a concern for me. I have South Dakota State as my pick in this game as well. I think it comes down to a battle of tempo in this one. You have Providence, who's 273rd in tempo. South Dakota State's 59th. So sort of opposite ends of the spectrum. Again, opposite ends of the spectrum defensively. If South Dakota State is able to get into what they want to do offensively, get up and down the court and make some shots, Providence is in big trouble because, like you said, Josh, they're just not going to be able to keep up. Providence isn't built to get into a shootout, keep up with you. Providence wants to, keep the game in maybe the high 60s, low 70s, and get into some crucial possessions at the end with Al Durham. I mean, we've seen they're 15-2 in games decided by single digits this year. That's literally their identity. But I also think that could be a detriment. When you play that many close games, you're bound to have your luck run out at some point. And I think Providence sees that happen here.
Before we move on, I'm glad we all actually picked the upset because it's trendy, but it's for a good reason. I'm glad you mentioned Al Durham, though. If it does come down at the end, you got to favor Providence for that reason because they are 15-2 in close ball games at the end, and they have a closer. Al Durham, the Indiana transfer, has been remarkable this year. So if it's late in the game, you got to favor Providence, but I just don't see it. I think South Dakota State's going to light them up. When you have that many guys that can hit the three ball that well, you're bound to make a handful of them, and that's all they need in this game. Then we move on to the 6-11 matchup. This is no offense. This is one of the least – it might be the best game of the whole tournament, but this is for a 6-11 matchup between two power schools from the two best conferences in college basketball this year. This is one of those games I just don't care about. LSU's finally fired Will Wade. We know how good when they are clicking on defense they can be, but they do not, unlike Providence, who knows how to close games out, they have no idea what they're doing in close games. They could easily have 4 or 5 more wins on the year, but they would just shoot threes when they're at 5 with a minute to go. They don't know how to close games out. Iowa State started off red hot, cracked the top 10 in college basketball earlier in the year, and then faded terribly at the end, barely made the tournament by the skin of their teeth. I've got LSU winning this because I do think their defense is significantly better than Iowa State can produce on offense. So I've got LSU winning, but this is one, no offense to either team. Like I said, it might be the best game of the whole tournament. I just don't care. I've got LSU winning because of the defense.
Yeah, I agree. LSU's defense, I think, is significantly better than Iowa State. Or maybe not significantly better. Iowa State has pretty good defense too, but LSU, I think, definitely plays in a better conference. Not that the Big 12 is bad or anything, because obviously both teams or both conferences is on par with each other. Just SEC got more depth. LSU's had some big wins this year. And by the way, you mentioned the Will Wade situation. Bravo. Only took him 4 damn years. And now LSU fans can, stop having to hear me talk about Will Wade, the coach, getting fired for the next 4 years because they did it. Bravo to them. Congrats. It's about damn time.
Yeah. I agree with all the sentiments there. It's crazy that I want to bring up the fact that Will Wade is such like a dickhead that he was cheating while they were investigating him for cheating.
Yeah.
He offered somebody $300,000 a year ago, 3 years into this investigation. But I agree with Josh. I'm not super interested in this game. Looking through the games, this is the one I probably cared the least about. I'm going with Iowa State because I like Isaiah Brockington and Tyrese Hunter. I think they find a way to pull it out with that backcourt.
We got a couple more games in the first round we want to get to before moving on to some interesting other matchups. 3 seed Wisconsin versus 14 Colgate. Johnny Davis still on the mend. Wisconsin's not really looked the greatest since, again, kind of the Providence syndrome. Once they beat Purdue and clinched the share of the Big Ten, they've not really looked the best. I think they've actually lost 2 of their last 3. Phil, I'll let you take first volley in this. Can Colgate hit enough shots to pull the upset here?
Simply enough, no. I don't really need to hold it up any more than that. I just think Wisconsin's better. Wisconsin's going to, play tough defense like they always do. It's in Milwaukee, which is a huge advantage for them. It's basically a home game. So I think Wisconsin by 10 plus. Colgate's not as good as they were last year, and they weren't able to pull it off last year. So I think Wisconsin gets it done.
No, Peyton.
Defense and Johnny Davis. That's all you need to know.
Yeah, if Colgate, for everybody's listening, kind of on the fence about this, wanting to pull the upset, the only reason you would pick Colgate in this is they're second behind South Dakota State in three-point shooting. They're shooting 40% from 3. Wisconsin could be, they're not the most athletic team. Switching out and maybe running guys off the line could be an issue. But yeah, I've got Wisconsin, whether Johnny Davis is full healthy or not. We've got Wisconsin. The 7-10 matchup's an interesting one in a way, but you got USC Miami. Miami was really good at the beginning of January. They were leading the ACC early on. But I just don't think they've been the same team. They've got a good backcourt. I think backcourt-wise they match up well with USC, but USC size is just going to swallow them up. Peyton, I think it was last week you mentioned Isaiah Mobley, how he's been playing a lot better now that he's out of his brother's shadow. USC is going to hit the backboard hard if they do miss shots. I've got USC and pretty comfortably in this matchup.
Yep, I'm going to have to agree with you. Isaiah Mobley has been tremendous this year, stepping up in a big role now that he's not playing under his brother's shadow. Evan Mobley, I agree with you. The length is going to give Miami problems. USC wins this pretty comfortably in my eyes.
I actually disagree with you guys. I think the style of offense Miami plays is going to kind of be able to negate that size that USC has. You know, Miami likes to play that 5-out offense, 4 guards and a big man who can shoot. I do think USC is obviously going to still give them some trouble, defensively, because USC is just going to be able to get whatever they want on the inside. I love Isaiah Mobley, but I just think Miami pulls this one out. Cam McGusty is an unbelievable shooter from mid-range, just has great touch, and I think Miami pulls out a close one.
Do you think Charlie Moore has to be on his A game to win this one, though?
Yeah, absolutely. And he can't have – this is going to be a close game in my estimation, so he can't have those possessions like we've seen even in the Duke game the other night where he just decides to pull up from 10 feet behind the three-point line with 20 seconds to go on the shot clock. Like, those are the kind of possessions that cost you games in March. And so, yeah, he's definitely a key.
Then we get to the 2:15 matchup. Shout out to our guy in the chat room, Don Lucas here. His boys Auburn still hold on to a 2 seed after being a 1 seed for a handful of months, kind of faltered at the end of the year here. But there you go. Don, look at him right here. I'll put it up on the chat for those watching live. He said finally down to the 2 seed. His boys, though, Auburn, we know how good they are when clicking, but they cannot have another over 14 performance from Katie Davidson. They can get away with it in this game against Jack State, who shouldn't be in the tournament. They backdoored their way because Bellarmine got screwed by the rules from the NCAA. But Ray Harper's got his ball club in there. They're happy to be there, but that's about as far as it goes. Auburn can play their C- game, I think, and still win this comfortably.
Yeah, Auburn, huge, 25 or 30.
Listen, Auburn, let's keep it real. They haven't really played their best in 1 month. But they still got Jabari Smith on the floor, and huge fan of Bruce Pearl. There's no reason why I think Jacksonville State keeps this close. Auburn by a lot.
So we move to a second round matchup. Kansas versus Creighton. I think all three of us have this matchup. Creighton's offense is good. Kansas playing a little better. Big 12 tournament champs. They're finally getting production from David McCormack. This Big 12 tournament was huge for Remy Martin's confidence again. He's playing better. I think Kansas, they might get a game for a little bit because Creighton's going to be tough enough to keep it close, but I've got Kansas winning this one by 10 or 12.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Remy Martin really stepped up in those last couple games in the Big 12 tournament, played more minutes than he had in quite a while for them. And I think it was Bill Simmons or somebody described him as just a fuck shit up guy, which I kind of like. He just completely creates chaos while he's out there. But anyway, I agree with you. I think Creighton keeps this a game for a while. I think Kansas ultimately is just deeper. Creighton, is without Nemhard still. And Creighton is great defensively. They're not as good offensively. I think Kansas kind of picks up the pace in this one and just outscores them.
Do I have to answer this one?
No, let's move on to the next one. We've got Iowa, South Dakota State. Phil and Peyton, I'm going to set this one as an over-under 85 points in this game.
For each team?
Yes.
Over. Over. Because neither of them are good on defense either. As great as they are offensively, they both are terrible defense.
Brother, this is going to be must-view television because you're going to have the Cinderella darling South Dakota State as a 13. You're going to have a red-hot Iowa. Both teams, tremendous offense. I think this legitimately could be a game that's in the 90s. This is going to be no defense played. This is going to look like an NBA All-Star game. No defense played. Let's shoot a bunch of threes. Let's see who makes more. Iowa still wins, but man, this could be a lot of fun.
Fuck the All-Star game. It looks like a normal NBA game in this era of basketball, so fuck the All-Star game. Either how, listen, huge fan of the South Dakota State squad. I don't think they have enough to beat Iowa, though. Jordan Bohannon is one of the best three-point shooters in the country. He is shooting lights out from three. And I think he just isn't he fourth on the all-time list now? I think I just seen something about that. I could be wrong. Don't quote me on that. I'll have to double check that later. But I'm pretty sure I've seen somewhere he might be top 5 or getting close to all-time three-point leaders in the all-time. However, Keegan Murray is a flat-out baller. That's the answer. Iowa wins.
And then we have 6 LSU, 3 Wisconsin. I think, again, we have all this matchup. Again, LSU, great defensively, does not play a lick of offense. Well, that's not fair. They play it. They just are not very good at it outside of one dude, essentially. But I got Wisconsin winning this. Whether Johnny Davis is full health or not, I got Wisconsin.
Yeah, and I got Wisconsin, Iowa State in this one. And it'll be, if that is the matchup, that will be one of the absolute ugliest games you ever watched in your life. But I'm with you. Pretty much whether Johnny Davis is healthy or not, I think Wisconsin has enough to get through that one.
I got Wisconsin, LSU. Both defenses are really good. They pretty much isolate each other out defensively. It comes down to who has the best player, and that's clearly, in my eyes, Johnny Davis. Wisconsin goes through.
And then I got an interesting one here. Don, you still with us? Don. This is gonna be an interesting one for you boys because Auburn is so athletic and big. Walker Kessler, probably defensive player of the year, but we just talked about USC. Their length and athleticism can easily match up with Auburn, but we keep saying it. In a game that's close, it comes down to who's got the best player on the floor. If Auburn gives the ball to Jabari Smith late in the game, if it turns in to the Wendell Green show, Auburn's going out in this round. But if they stay the course, can get Kessler blocking shots, get out in transition, and want to run like they do, I've got Auburn winning this game.
Hey, listen, Don, I agree with you. I saw it coming too. Before I even seen this bracket, as soon as I see him pick Auburn to win the first round at USC, I have a feeling that he was going to mention something like that. So I'm with you on there. However, Jabari Smith might be one of the best
I picked Auburn to win. I don't know what
I know. I didn't say anything bad. I didn't say you predicted them to win, did I?
No.
Okay. Either way, I got Auburn going through.
And I had Miami and Auburn in this one, and not just to troll you or anything, Don, but I think Miami just finds – I have a feeling in this one that Miami finds a way to take it. I think that Walker Kessler gets dragged away from the rim in that one. Again, that 5-out offense that Miami runs. I think Miami just finds a way to win. I don't know. I have a feeling about that team. I watched them throughout the ACC tournament, seen them throughout the ACC season, and they just feel like one of those teams that's going to find a way to win in March.
We got Connor McCabe, longtime member. Shout out. He's saying the Hawks. I'm assuming the Kansas Jayhawks, which we are getting to now because we're down to the Sweet 16. We've got Kansas and Iowa. Iowa's offense against Kansas, kind of all around presence. This is going to be one that absolutely, not only Remy Martin, Ochai Abaji's got to be great. What a matchup individually that hopefully they match up. Ochai Abaji versus Keegan Murray, Player of the Year contenders matching up. Iowa, can they get their offense rolling? We've seen IU's defense for the most part was able to negate that. Iowa still found a way to win. Kansas is going to be sort of similar. David McCormack has got to play a great game in this one. He's got to control the backboard. This is a type of game where he needs to help steady the waters because Iowa wants to get out and run. Kansas wants to run too, but McCormack needs to have like a 12-point, 9-rebound, 2-block game in this type of situation to help negate some of that pressure that Iowa and Kansas hits the backboards pretty hard, especially with their guards. Christian Braun's one of the best rebounding guards in the country. I've got Kansas escaping with a win, something like 78-77, but I do have Kansas going to the Elite Eight.
Phil, you can go last on this one because I want to take the lead on this one since it's one of my teams, Kansas. You can call me crazy if you want to. I don't really care. This is a bad matchup for Kansas. This might be if Kansas can get past Iowa, then I really like their chances of getting to the Final Four. I feel like this is Kansas' toughest opponent inside this whole region. You can call me crazy if you want to. It's just how I feel. And I've watched Kansas a lot this year. Josh, what's one major problem Kansas has this year?
Front court.
Keegan Murray's on the other side. For
Yeah.
Iowa. Not only that, but they hit a shit ton of threes. I got listen, Cook. I'm sure you're probably gonna listen to this. Connor, I know you're a Kansas fan. Kyle Bauman, he'll probably listen to us either as well. Listen, I'm rock chalk to the day I die, but I'm also trying to win some fucking money here. All right, I finished second last year. Damn it, I'm coming for that revenge. I think this is a bad matchup. I don't like this. I don't feel comfortable about it. The way David McCormack has looked all season long. Now in the Texas Tech game, he played pretty damn well.
He played good in the Big. He played good in the Big 12 tournament.
In the Texas game, the final regular season of the game, he had like 22 and 10. But also, Mitch Lightfoot got injured in that Texas Tech game. I don't know what. I'm pretty sure he was out for the rest of the game. So I don't know the extent of his injury. That's a huge loss to our front court as well, coming off the bench. So it's really going to put pressure on a guy like Zach Clemens and KJ Adams coming off the bench for us. And I just don't know if they have the ability to help us in the front court that we desperately need. I got Iowa. Moving through.
Yeah. So I have Kansas and Iowa in this one as well, same as you guys. And I like Kansas in this one. Both teams are fairly similar offensively. We talked about how good Iowa is, number 1 in the country, but Kansas is still top 10. They're number 6. They're top 30 defensively. They're just outside of that recipe that Josh has, talked about all season of what national champions have. But I just think they have more of that DNA in them than Iowa does. And as much as I love Keegan Murray, I feel like there's going to be one game in this tournament at least that, somebody's able to slow him down. And if it's Kansas, then Kansas just has way too much. So I got Kansas in this one. High scoring game, like 80-74.
So I do want to, we haven't brought up all the tournament show so far. I do want to let everybody understand that we see it every year. You can go back to 2012 and beyond even. Vanderbilt wins the SEC championship over that really good Kentucky team. Everybody's high on them. They're riding high coming in the tournament, and they lose the first round. We see it every year. A team or two is red hot. They win their conference tournament, and they bow out in the first round because they cannot carry the momentum. I do want to be wary of Iowa because of that. I'm not saying this is a situation. Just be wary of that. But the other one, Wisconsin, Auburn, for me, this is the one where Johnny Davis must be fully healthy if Wisconsin has a chance, because like our friend Jim Coyle, who joined us a couple weeks ago from Indiana Sports Beat Radio, talked about, you take Johnny Davis off that Wisconsin team and they're probably not even an NIT team. Brad Davidson needs to shoot well, but Auburn, this is one that they've been way more battle tested against better teams than Wisconsin. They've played Tennessee. They've played other teams that do what Wisconsin does and better with better talent. I've got Auburn matching up with Kansas in the Elite Eight with a Final Four berth on the line.
And my matchup, I have Miami and Wisconsin, and again, it just comes down to defense for me. Miami is so atrocious defensively. They're 157th in the country. Wisconsin's not all that great, offensively or defensively, kind of middle of the pack in both. But the metrics don't really love them. They've just been one of those teams that's found a way to win. Like you said, Josh, I do think this is going to be getting to the point of the tournament where they're really going to need Johnny Davis to be the player that he's been. But I like Wisconsin just as the better team in a matchup with Miami, and Miami sort of runs out of gas.
My matchup, I got 3C Wisconsin taking on 2C Auburn. Like I said earlier, in the second round matchup against USC, I don't care how bad, or not how bad, or how iffy Auburn has looked this past month, they still have a legitimate chance of getting to the Final Four. They got a superstar in Jabari Smith. They got a good backcourt in Wendell Green. And they got the best shot blocker in the country in Walker Kessler. Johnny Davis, in my eyes, he's a superstar. He is up there with National Player of the Year candidate. Him, Sheboy, Keegan Murray, guys like that. All of them are in this. They're definitely a candidate for Player of the Year. But my thing with Johnny Davis is, and especially in this matchup, and I think it's going to hold true. And by the way, I'm predicting Auburn, and here's why. I'm predicting Auburn to win this game, and here's why. I think Johnny Davis is going to have majorly hit some outside shots in this game. because if he drives to the rim, Walker Kessler is going to be there to either block his shot or affect his shot in some shape or form. And that's going to, I think, take a toll in Wisconsin because it's a one-man show down there. So Auburn goes through.
And then that, for me, the Final Four bid on the line, I've got Kansas, Auburn, and a chalk matchup 1 versus 2. We've talked about it, Kansas's lack of front court depth. It doesn't matter to me in this matchup how well David McCormack has been playing inside. He does not he's not a crafty finisher inside, and he's definitely going to struggle against Walker Kessler. Blocks and contested shots will lead to runouts for Auburn, who wants to get up and down in transition. This is one I think Katie Davidson actually plays well because his strength and ability to defend, be a two-way player. I've got Auburn going to the Final Four. Don, I know you're still in here. I've got your boys going to the Final Four. Despite how they've looked in the last couple of weeks, I still think they've got enough, and I think this Kansas matchup favors them.
So I have Kansas and Wisconsin matching up in the Elite Eight for a trip to the Final Four, and I like Wisconsin in this one. I know, you sort of talked about it, Josh, that they maybe didn't play the best basketball after they clinched that share of the Big Ten, but I feel like there's something to that, sort of getting that little lull or disappointment out of the way before the tournament, and they're picking back up a little bit right now. I think Johnny Davis will have a good game in that one. They'll really need Brad Davison to step up. If Christian Brown is able to, match his production or outproduce him, I think Wisconsin will probably have a tough chance at winning that one. But I like Johnny Davis and Brad Davison to both have big games, and Wisconsin steals it.
I have Iowa taking on Auburn. As hot as Iowa has been here lately, winning the Big Ten championship, this is where the run ends. Auburn goes through to the Final Four.
And then that leaves one region left, and this is the region, we can call it the blue blood region because you've got Carolina, Indiana, UCLA, Kentucky in there. Many national championships in this region right here, but Baylor's the 1 seed out east, leads them to Philadelphia. They play Norfolk State. Baylor's not looked the best here lately, but they're going to handle Norfolk State. They're too tough, too gritty, too defensive-minded. They win this one big. I'm pretty sure you guys all have that as well. I mean, you do, right? You got Baylor, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I was just making sure.
Well, duh, yeah.
Okay. Now it leads into an 8-9 matchup. This is the Dawson Garcia revenge game, I guess you could call that, even though he's not been playing for Carolina. Probably won't play in this one. All signs point there. Carolina playing a little better, but I did hear something today that makes sense on the field of 68 from last night. You take the Duke win away, and they've still got blown out by Virginia Tech. They still don't look the best. I think the Duke win is jading us a little bit on North Carolina. Marquette with Shaka is going to get up after them. Armando Bacot still might have a 2015 type of night. Marquette with Justin Lewis and company is going to put a lot of pressure on North Carolina. But because of that, I think Carolina can get out in transition. I got Carolina winning this one, but don't sleep on Marquette giving them a lot of problems.
Yeah, same boat. I got Carolina winning this one, but I think the key for them is RJ Davis and Caleb Love. If they have good games, Carolina will win this one probably big. If they don't, Marquette could easily handle them.
I have North Carolina winning this game. I think they can at least win one game in the tournament. I really wish this could be – I really wish I can be biased here and just pick Marquette out of spite for North Carolina for what they did against Louisville in that first matchup when we should have fucking beat them. But I'm not going to do that. I'm not like that. So North Carolina is good enough to at least win one game in the tournament. That's probably it.
Because we're fair media. That's why.
Yeah.
Now, here's an interesting one, fellas. You got the 5 seed St. Mary's. A lot of love to the mid-major from the West Coast Conference. They got 4 teams in this year. Or no, 4 teams. Yes, 4 teams. St. Mary's is a 5. We've seen what they can be at their peak when they beat Gonzaga a few weeks ago, last game of the regular season. Good backcourt, kind of tough all around. They want to slow the game down. They're going to play the winner of the other play-in game, the 2 of the last 4. We talked about it on the other side. Playing tomorrow night in Dayton, Wyoming, and Indiana. We know how much we love Wyoming. We've talked about them all year, but they are faltering down the stretch. You go back 3 weeks ago, and they're in the neck-for-neck race with Boise to win the Mountain West. They faltered. They've not looked the best since then. no, don't get me wrong, they could beat Indiana, but how about this? I've got IU beating Wyoming to play St. Mary's on Thursday night out in Portland, and I've got Indiana. I love their size. They found something in Indianapolis. They needed to dig deep to even make the tournament. They beat Michigan coming down from 17. They looked really good against Illinois, and they had Iowa dead to rights. They found something in Indianapolis. Xavier Johnson in his last, 8, 9, 10 games has been tremendous at point guard for him. TJD is going to do crazy stuff. I've got Indiana beating Wyoming, and I've got them beating them on Thursday night out in Portland, beating St. Mary's to move to the second round.
So I have two answers for this. In my bracket right now, I have Indiana beating Wyoming, and if that's the case, then I'm agreeing with you, Josh. I like Indiana to upset St. Mary's in the first round. Now tomorrow, 9:10 p.m. Eastern time, I think that's the correct time. That's when this game tips off. If Wyoming comes out on top with this game, then I'm going to switch my pick and I'm going to have St. Mary's going through. But as of right now in my bracket, I think Indiana's going to beat Wyoming in a close one. TJD is the factor there, and the way Xavier Johnson's been playing over these last 8 to 10 games has been incredible. And if they do that, then I think St. Mary's goes down. The Hoosiers back in the tournament, winning the game.
And
How about that?
They got fucked on their seed line too. They should have been solidly in. Switch them in Michigan.
I agree. So I'm with you guys on Indiana beating Wyoming. I do think that is going to go down, but Indiana's, they lean on their defense, and I think St. Mary's is an even better defensive team. And, St. Mary's is going to slow the tempo way, way down. They're near the very bottom of the country in tempo. And Indiana has had some issues taking care of the ball at times. So I think if St. Mary's is able to slow it down as much as they want to, they're just going to turn Indiana over in some crucial moments. And you're looking at a 6 or 8 point victory for St. Mary's.
We talk about it all the time. I believe in momentum. I think Indiana, like I said, I think they found something in Indianapolis this last week. We'll see if it carries over, but I think they found who they are finally. You got 4 seed UCLA playing 13 seed Akron. Your boy Illinois' former coach John Groce there at Akron. Good season, winners of the MAC. But UCLA, they've played a lot better, despite losing to Arizona in the Pac-12 championship. They finally looked a little better. Jaime Jaquez has got to play big in this tournament if UCLA wants to make another deep run. But I think they'll have enough to beat Akron.
Yeah, I'm with you here. I don't necessarily love UCLA's chances of making a deep run, but I think they're way too much for Akron. Akron did have a great season, and John Groce is a great coach. I actually liked him when he was here at Illinois, just couldn't quite get the job done. But he's a good mid-major coach, and Akron will have a chance in this one, but UCLA just way too much talent.
Yeah, I'm going with UCLA. The Bruins go through. Next matchup, though, I don't want to take this one. You got 6 seed Texas taking an 11 seed Virginia Tech. Texas should have been so much better than what they are, or what they're, I guess, not, quote unquote. They have so much talent. They just haven't yet to put it together. Yeah, they beat Kansas early, like a little bit later in the season, but that was at home. They kept it close. They went into overtime in the second matchup in Allen Fieldhouse. But ultimately, I'm just not confident in this Texas squad. Virginia Tech is top 20 in offense, 3rd in 3-point percentage, have won 13 of the last 15 games, including winning the ACC title. I've taken a 3-game losing streak in late January. This is a team that's starting to catch momentum, and I like Virginia Tech. The Hokies going through.
I'm right there with you, Peyton. I didn't mean to cut Phil off there, but I'm right there with you. I just posted in the chat for those following along live. I think Texas will probably go down as the most disappointing team in college basketball this year, with all the high hopes, the transfers, the big-time transfers at that. Chris Beard and his experience, they have just underperformed. I don't trust them now. Could talent-wise they put it together? Of course they could. But Virginia Tech's found something as well to run through the ACC tournament like they did, rout Duke essentially. Their offense where they will pull you out. Storm Murphy has been tremendous. Kive Aluma, Couture. I like Virginia Tech in the 11-6 upset in this.
Yeah, had Virginia Tech drawn a different matchup, I would have really liked them to pull an upset over somebody, but I just think Texas is a bad matchup for them. Virginia Tech was, looking to draw somebody more similar to, a Duke who we just seen them upset. Somebody who kind of, isn't a defensive gritty team like they are. And Texas is exactly that. So I think Texas is just going to, again, they sort of just do everything Virginia Tech does a little bit better. I think Texas grinds it out for like a 58-54, just horrible game to watch.
Yeah, and real quick before Josh moves on with the next matchup, to me, it's either for the most disappointing teams in the country, it's either Texas or Michigan for me. It's one of those two teams.
That's fair. That's right. By the way, we've been posting the live comments, so keep them coming. You can see Johnny Stroud, our longtime buddy and follower of the group, talking about Indiana. You can see the comment there live. So get some Hoosier love there. But Purdue is a 3 seed, Yale 14. Purdue fallen. They were at one point a few weeks back. They were up to the 1 seed. Now they're down to the 3. Purdue's just inconsistency on defense, which is so awkward to say because normally they have such a great elite defense and an okay offense, but it's completely flipped. They've had a top 5 offense all season. They can put up numbers in a hurry, but they don't defend anybody. They do not defend anybody. Yale, I hear some prognosticators picking Yale as a potential upset here, the way they like to slow it down and grind it out. But, man, I just see Purdue's size. I just cannot – unless Yale comes out red hot and hits a shit ton of threes and can somehow get Zach Edey in foul trouble, Purdue's going to win this game.
Yeah, I think Purdue runs them out of the building, like you said, unless just barring something totally catastrophic happening on defense or Purdue's, already focusing on that second game of the weekend, which I'd find hard to believe. They're going to have way too much. They should win by 15 or 20 here.
I agree.
Easy as that. Now, here's the one that really interests me because we've talked about it all year, how much we love Murray State. Tremendous. They ran through the Ohio Valley Conference, went unbeaten in regular season and postseason play. We've talked about they've got 3 dudes that can absolutely ball. They've been in the tournament. They know what to expect. They're a 7 seed, but man, like they matched up the committee matched up them and San Francisco. Normally they don't put 2 mid-majors like that together because they like to spread it out a little bit. Murray State, San Francisco. I love Murray State in this one. I said that they can make a Sweet 16 run depending on draw. Unfortunately, this draw form is bad, but I do think they have enough to beat San Francisco. I've got Murray State.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think Murray State wins this game by 12 or more.
Yeah, I'm on the same page with both of you guys. It is a little disappointing to see both of these teams playing each other because I think they could have potentially both knocked off, some Power 5 schools, but I like Murray State to move on.
And then that would set up a potential second round. We'll talk about Kentucky's the 2 in this region, which a lot of people consider them the 1 based on how Baylor's looked here recently. Playing 15-seeded St. Peter's, who tucked the bid after the favorite Iona got beat in the conference tournament. St. Peter's, they're going to defend their top 50 in KenPom in defense. They will try to put a lot of pressure on the Cats, but it's not going to quite be that same Tennessee pressure that Kentucky's seen. Oscar's National Player of the Year is going to eat up the glass, pretty much get anything he wants. It might be a struggle for a while. I could easily see it. Kentucky be cold from 3. You would hope that Kellen Grady can find his jump shot again because if Kentucky's going to make a deep run, they need him hitting shots. But at the end of the day, the Cats win. I think the line right now, they're an 18.5 favorite in this game. I see them covering and pretty easily. This might end up getting away from St. Peter's late. Cats by 25.
No offense to St. Peter's, but I really don't give a damn what their stats are or what their metrics are. I don't give a damn if they're number 1 in offense, number 2 in defense, and number 1 in 3-point percentage. They ain't got anybody to defend Oscar Tshiebwe and keep him off the glass. Kentucky by 25 in this one.
Yeah, same sentiment as both of you guys. I just don't think St. Peter's has absolutely any chance in this one. Kentucky's way deeper. Is going to have probably the 6 or 7 best players on the floor, without a doubt. So this one could get very, very out of hand.
Now, this is the region. We've talked about some good ones as far as matchups. This is where, from the second round on, things get very, very interesting. We've all got Baylor, North Carolina in the second round. We know North Carolina, we've went on about them, how outside the Duke game, they've not necessarily looked the best, but they still have enough talent to compete with a Baylor team that does not have Jonathan Chame-Chachwa, Matthew Mayer and company, James Akinjo. Akinjo, he's had a really good year at Baylor. but he's still so inconsistent. He's not consistent. It's like one night he'll get you 25, and the next night he'll be lucky to give you 7. North Carolina is going to keep this close. North Carolina, I think, will have a chance, and I know some people have North Carolina taking Baylor down, but I think Baylor's just DNA from winning a title last year has just enough to grind North Carolina down. And keep in mind, Carolina does not just lose close games. When they lose big. I've got Baylor in this one.
I'm with you. You talked about Baylor's inconsistency, but I think that's the exact same story for Carolina. If we see the same Carolina team we've seen in that finale at Cameron Indoor, could they win this game? Absolutely. But if they show up and look like the team that got blown out by 20 in the ACC tournament, then this one's going to get ugly. And the truth's probably somewhere in the middle, but I just like Baylor's chances better at showing up each and every night. So I'd take Baylor here.
Yeah, I said North Carolina can win one game, and that's it, because that's all they're winning is one game. They're getting beat by Baylor, and I don't even think it's going to be close. Like Josh alluded to, not even going to be close, 14 or more.
Then it moves on. Peyton, I think you and I both have Indiana against UCLA, which is another interesting one because Indiana's defense will keep them in the game. UCLA is not a team that wants to necessarily push the tempo like in North Carolina or other teams or Kentucky or Purdue. It's going to probably be a low possession game, a defensive grinded out game. Indiana will give themselves a shot as long as they take care of the basketball. Johnny Juzang's played better, but again, I think it relies on Tiger Campbell's play at point guard and Jaime Jaquez Jr., his ability to stretch the floor, hit and pick and pop threes, get to the rim, create fouls. If he's good, UCLA wins. If he's not good, Indiana wins this game. But I'm going to assume Jaime Jaquez is good, UCLA wins, but I think this is a good one. And I think Hoosier fans out there need to like this matchup because I think they can give UCLA all they want out in Portland to make a Sweet 16. I just think at the end of the day, experience from last year carries over. UCLA wins by 2 points.
I think if you want to say that Indiana has the best player in the full in TJD, I wouldn't be opposed to say you're wrong because you might be right. He might be a little bit better than Johnny Juzang or Jaime Jaquez Jr. or even Tiger Campbell. But however, I just mentioned that UCLA has a big three of those guys. And not to mention Peyton Watson coming off the bench, who's a 5-star prospect. UCLA has more weapons. They're a loaded team. And they're looking to get back to the Final Four after what happened last year. So UCLA goes through, knocks off IU.
So I have UCLA going up against St. Mary's here. Both teams pretty evenly matched defensively. You guys touched on it a little bit with how much depth UCLA has. I just think UCLA is with Johnny Juzang, Jaime Vasquez, and Tiger Campbell. I think they have more. St. Mary's, Matt Tass is really good, but just can't lean on him the way that UCLA can lean on Juzang, and UCLA pulls it out.
Then we go down to I have Virginia Tech against Purdue. I think Peyton, you've got the same thing.
Yeah, I do.
I'll let you take it first.
You sure?
Yeah, go on.
Listen, I would love to see a Sweet 16 matchup of Purdue versus Kentucky. That would be awesome to see that. But Anna Sandman is going to be playing in this game. Va Tech with an upset over Purdue. Josh, we talked about it. Purdue's great offensively, but what have they been struggling over this year?
They don't guard the ball.
They don't guard. It's kind of like we talked about with Duke. They can't get on the perimeter and guard anybody. And Virginia Tech, I mentioned it. Let me pull up my notes up real quick. Top 20 in offense. They're third in three-point percentage, and they've won 13 of the last 15 games. I mean, people might think I'm crazy, and that's fine, but it is March after all.
Well,
and
no.
You need to be able to hit shots to win ball games.
You're not crazy because a lot of the field of 68 and other people's picking Virginia Tech over Purdue in this matchup because of Purdue's lack of ability defensively this year and Virginia Tech's offense putting essentially 5 guys at any time stretching the floor, especially against Purdue where Zach Edey loves to protect the rim. Travion Williams is a little more mobile. But if you pull Edey away from the rim, the way Virginia Tech loves to run their inverted offense, pick and pop, we've seen Couture, we've seen Kiva Luma be able to hit some threes and attack the rim. If Edey has to come out and guard those guys, that opens the rim up, and Storm Murphy and guys can attack the rim, pick and pop, hit the hammer action off the baseline. Virginia Tech could easily knock Purdue out, but I still think Purdue's got enough to win this game. Eventually, Virginia Tech shooting and essentially luck in a little bit. It's got to run out. I've got Purdue but there's a lot of people predicting this upset.
So my matchup here, I have Texas going up against Purdue, but I'm taking Texas. I know you guys were talking about them being the most disappointing team, but I feel like occasionally we have, one of those teams, maybe sneak in the tournament or be a little lower seeded than they were expected, and then just go on that run, finally get their shit together. I also think Texas would be a bad matchup for Purdue, that slow it down defensive style that we've talked about. And I think if Marcus Carr could step up and have a big scoring game, he does have some familiarity playing against Purdue, playing in the Big Ten. I see Texas pulling off that upset and heading to the Sweet 16.
It's very possible that could potentially happen. And it's because Texas has so many great players on the team, like a Marcus Carr, like Courtney Ramey, like Andrew Jones. That's what
Timmy Allen.
Yeah, Timmy Allen.
I was getting ready to say, if that was the matchup, Texas and Purdue, Texas doesn't shoot the ball that well, though. They would have to have a Timmy Allen go nuts. I actually think that's why I think Virginia Tech matches up better with Purdue than Texas does. But then the other second round matchup, this is for the state of Kentucky. You guys take this away, and then I'll give you my opinion.
I'll just go real quick here because my opinion is pretty simple. I love Murray State. I do think they're a top 20 team. I think they got fucked in their draw here. And I think Kentucky is just – they're going to run them off the floor by 15 or 20 points. Murray State just doesn't have the athleticism to hang with them. They don't have the pros that Kentucky has. Kentucky big.
Yeah, I agree with Phil. This ain't going to be a game. It's not going to be close. From start to finish, Kentucky's just going to beat them on both sides of the ball, offensively and defensively. Kentucky by 15, 20, 25, around that range.
You guys are so disrespectful to Murray State. I think this was the worst draw they could have because we've talked about it. I think they're Sweet 16 good, but this is a bad matchup. Love Murray State and what they've done. I think they're going to keep it closer than what people think. I really think they're going to play the Cats well. They'll find a weakness, especially if they're hitting shots. It seems like everybody that plays Kentucky this year hits shots all of a sudden. Why start anything different now? Murray State's going to give them a game. Kentucky pulls away late, but it's not going to be that big of a blowout. I can't see it. I think Murray State's too good and experienced to let that happen. But Kentucky wins, moves to Sweet 16. There we have Baylor and UCLA on my end. This is where Baylor stops because UCLA has enough pieces. North Carolina couldn't do it, but UCLA's experienced. They're a little deeper right now than Baylor is. They like to grind it out as well like Baylor does, and they've got shot makers that's been proven from the end of last year's tournament and into this year. Johnny Juzang lives for moments like this. I got UCLA back to the Elite Eight, taking down the 1-seed Baylor.
Josh, you literally took the words right out of my mouth. I like UCLA going to the Elite Eight here. They're a team I didn't, wasn't super high on all year, but Baylor's just been sort of fading. You mentioned that UCLA just has better shot makers. They're better offensively, I think, and I like the way they're playing right now.
This is one of those matchups where I originally had UCLA winning this game. Now I switched it to Baylor, and I switched it back, and now I switched it back again to Baylor. This is tough. I like both of these teams. I think both of these teams could potentially make a Final Four and get to the national championship. However, I'm going to disagree with both of you guys. And I've heard you guys a lot over this past month on the podcast talking about Baylor, how they've struggled here recently with injuries and stuff like that. It hasn't really looked the same. But every single time I've heard you guys nag on Baylor, they end up getting a big-time win and proving y'all wrong. So Baylor's going to shut y'all up. James Akinjo is going to go for 25 points in this game. Baylor wins.
Then the other go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, I feel like we've jinxed Baylor no matter what we've said about them. Yeah. Earlier in the season, when I first, started coming on, we were talking about how they were the only consistent team. And then they went on this run where they lost, I think, 3 out of 5. And then as soon as we started shitting on them a little bit, they turn it back around. So,
yeah. Yeah. Then we get to the other Sweet 16 matchup, Philadelphia, the one I'm excited and nervous about all at the same time. I've got Purdue, Kentucky in this one. It'll be so interesting seeing Oscar go against Purdue's bigs because the one thing that's bothered him all year is length and athleticism. Zach Edey's as big as you're going to find in college basketball this year. But Oscar did have his 2020 game where he had, was it 25 rebounds, whatever it was, 27, whatever it was, some crazy astronomical number against Jamarian Sharp, who's 7'5" from Western Kentucky. Now, Zach Edey's got more strength and size, but that's something to keep in mind. It'd be interesting. I think this is one that Kentucky's defense is obviously better than Purdue's, but Purdue, Jaden Ivey's got shots. This could be a fun, explosive game. Ivey and Xavier Wheeler and Ty Washington and company pushing the ball up and down the floor. Who creates the mismatches, foul trouble, how the game's called, could all come down to play an effect. This is one that Kellen Grady needs to hit shots. Same with Davion Mintz, because Purdue's going to hit threes. Sasha Stefanovic. This is a really good game. I think it's a close game. But at the end of the day, I think Kentucky's got too much defense, can make another couple stops. I've got Kentucky in a close one, but I think it could be a Sweet 16 classic.
So I got Texas going up against Kentucky. And this is where I think Texas just, runs into a wall. I've picked Kentucky to win big in both of their games previous to this, and I think they win big in this one. You mentioned sort of if Texas could pull the upset over Purdue, they would need to have a big game out of Timmy Allen or somebody like that. I think to beat Kentucky, they would have to have pretty huge games out of multiple guys, and I just don't think, we haven't seen any evidence that they're able to get that. So I think Kentucky in another double-digit win here.
Like Phil did for his first two matchups, I as well predicted Kentucky big, the first round and the second round. However, I got Kentucky taking on Virginia Tech. I think Virginia Tech for most of the game, for about 36 of the 40 minutes, will keep this game close. But once it gets down to like the late 4 minutes, a guy like Kellen Grady is going to hit shots and make big-time plays. And Ty Washington has been playing incredible over the past couple of months. Big thing for him just staying healthy, but Kentucky's going to win this game. They'll stretch it out about the last 4 minutes. Kentucky goes to the Elite Eight.
I forgot to mention in that Kentucky-Purdue matchup, a guy to keep an eye on, I think would be big for the Cats if they win, is Jacob Toppin. He's played tremendous over the last couple months. But then that sets up an Elite Eight matchup. You talked about massive blue bloods. I've got UCLA, Kentucky, Elite Eight, Final Four bid on the line, the two all-time winningest teams as far as national championships go, trying to chase another one, trying to chase another Final Four. Johnny Juzang versus Kentucky. You got all the storylines. Obviously, UCLA wants to slow it down. Kentucky wants to speed it up, both solid defensively. But again, who does UCLA put to defend Oscar? If it's Miles Johnson, Oscar fouls him out. I just don't see Miles Johnson stopping him. If UCLA goes small, they might have a better shot. But then again, Kentucky's size eats them up. I think the Cats make it to the Final Four.
I'm right there with you, Josh. I have Kentucky over UCLA. And like you said, I just think it comes down to Kentucky having more. They have, Xavier Wheeler, Ty Washington, Davion Mintz. I think for UCLA to be able to win this one, it would take somebody kind of off the beaten path for them to have a big game. Johnny Juzang is going to get his, whatever. They would need somebody like a Peyton Watson to step in and end up with 20 points, knock down some threes, and really just an out of their mind performance for UCLA to pull this one off. So I like Kentucky.
Nope. This has nothing to do with me being a Louisville fan. I just want to clear that out of the way. I just want to put this out there. I originally had Kentucky going to the Final Four and going to the national championship, and by the way, winning the damn thing. But this is another one where I switched my damn picks, and it took me a long time to think about this. Listen, I love this Baylor squad. Say what you want about them. A lot of their downfall was they had injuries, just like Kentucky did. Kentucky had injuries, and they ended up losing to Auburn. They lost to Arkansas. And really, these past month, Kentucky hasn't really put an A game performance in a while. Let's keep that in mind. They end up getting blown out. They got beat up, not terribly in Thompson Bowling Arena, but they still got beat. They took an L to Arkansas, and then they just got beat by Tennessee again in the SEC tournament semis. Kentucky hasn't looked their best, so they still got to figure out some issues down as well. But like I said, I like Baylor, and it really comes down to the coaches for me. I like Coach Cal, but I like Scott Drew better. And I think he's the defending national champions, which is a team who didn't even make the damn tournament last year. I just feel like I had to throw that out there. Either way, Baylor goes back-to-back, goes to the Final Four another year in a row.
I will say this draw favored Kentucky heavily they got about as good as draw as you could possibly ask for. I think it sets up nicely for them to get to the Final Four. But now we're here at Final Four. And I will say with full disclosure, I'm going to give you my brain Final Four. And then, of course, I'll give you my heart one real quick. But I've got Texas Tech and Kentucky in one national semifinal. Texas Tech's defense is great. They're elite. We talked about it, physicality. But I think the Tennessee games specifically, and you can throw in LSU and a couple others, have got the Cats ready for a game like this. And at the end of the day, you look what Kansas was able to do to Texas Tech when they beat them. They were able to punch the ball inside and hit some shots off of that. I think Kentucky can do the same thing, mirror it. And I think these kids are ready for the big stage. I got Kentucky over Texas Tech to move to the national championship. On the other side, I've got Arizona and Auburn in a tremendous athletic contest. Christian Coloco versus Walker Kessler down low will be crazy. They might combine for 15 blocks combined. It'll be a crazy fun game, but I think Arizona's offense is a little better and a little more proven. I got Kentucky and Arizona in the final. And then this is where it differs, because I'm going to give you my head. And in my head says Kentucky-Arizona rematch of 97 title game. The one thing we've seen Kentucky struggle with, not only with like a physicality from Tennessee, but a team that can score the basketball and have an athletic, long defender like a Walker Kessler, or in this case, Christian Coloco, bothers Oscar. I've got Arizona winning the national championship in my head scenario. But, of course, my heart, I've got the Cats beating Arizona to get their 9th national championship.
So, for my Final Four, I have Gonzaga matching up against Kentucky on that side of the bracket. And honestly, I think that's kind of a de facto national title game. I see both of those teams as 1 and 2, two best teams in the country. And I think whoever comes out of that one, ultimately takes it. I like Gonzaga to win that game. I think that Oscar is definitely going to neutralize or would neutralize Drew Timme in that matchup, but I'm not sure that Kentucky has anybody that could really match up with Chet. And I think if Chet shows up to play, like we've seen him in some moments, then he could be a huge matchup problem for Kentucky. I like Gonzaga's guard play. So I like Gonzaga in that matchup.
Can I real quick? Can I give you what I think if that matchup happens? Who guards Chet? I think Coach Cal puts Jacob Toppin on him because his athleticism. He's guarded Paolo, but he's stronger than Chet, and I think smaller defenders bother him because it's not like he could get a shot up over Jacob Toppin, but Toppin has like a 44-inch vertical or something stupid at 6'6". So I think if that theoretical matchup. I think Cal eventually would go Jacob Toppin on Chet Holmgren.
Yeah, no, I think that would be his only option. And I think that the key, like you said, would be if Chet's knocking down his shots, he's going to be able to get that shot over Toppin all day. Granted, that's if he's knocking down his shots, which we've seen as iffy throughout the season. But I like him to be able to take advantage of that matchup at least a little bit. And then on the other side, I have Villanova and Wisconsin. And I like Villanova in that matchup. I think Villanova is just going to get more production outside of their backcourt than Wisconsin is generally. Again, Villanova has that sort of championship pedigree. Colin Gillespie's been there before. He's maybe the best closer in college basketball. So I think Villanova takes that one. And then in the finals, I think Gonzaga is just way too much for Villanova. Like I said, I think the Gonzaga-Kentucky game is kind of a de facto title game. And Gonzaga just absolutely runs Villanova off the court. Mark Few finally gets his flowers. Everybody can get off his fucking back. This guy didn't build a fucking program in Spokane out of nothing.
Hey, real quick, give me your heart though. We did our head. Give me your heart. Hey, your heart's got Illinois in the title game, but who they play and beat?
Yeah, I was gonna say my heart has Illinois here. Honestly, I would say Duke. Illinois beats Duke in the title because, as somebody who lives in the triangle, you sort of have to pick who you like. And if I had to pick of the, between Duke and Carolina, I prefer Duke. But I would just love to fucking taste Coach K's tears as he walks off the court. So that would be like a dream come true for me.
Right.
So yeah, that's
my
heart right there.
I like it. Peyton, same for you. Head and heart.
I'll go on my head first. So Final Four, I got Texas Tech, 3 seed, taking on 1 seed Baylor. That's a Big 12 matchup, by the way. As much as I like this Baylor squad, Texas Tech is tough as hell. Very physical. Like I said earlier, the number one defensive team in the country. Texas Tech's going to beat Baylor in a close defensive-minded game. Texas Tech's going to go to the national championship. And who will they play? They will play the winner of the other Final Four. Arizona taking on Auburn. Boy, that would be a fun matchup to watch. Arizona's going to beat Auburn. Once again, like I said, with Texas Tech over Baylor. Defensively, I think they'll not shut Jabari Smith out completely, but I think they will take him out of the game and force a Window Green to feel like he has to take over. And we've seen what happens when he feels like he has to take over. It's not good for Auburn. So, national championship game. 3-seed Texas Tech versus 1-seed Arizona.
2 first-year coaches. Somebody's getting a title.
Mark Adams versus Tommy Lloyd.
That would be the first time a first-year coach wins a title, would it not?
Yeah.
No, Kevin Ollie did it, didn't he?
It was his second year.
Was it second? Okay.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I think you're right. Yeah.
Yeah. I think Arizona's going to win this game. They got the best player on the floor. It's pretty simple. Benedict Mathurin, I think, as much as Texas swag, they got a lot of depth and they're physical and the best defensive team in the nation. Benedict Mathurin is going to get buckets, and he's going to be the best player on the floor. Arizona wins 75-69. First time national champion since in 24 years. Josh, who did they beat? Who did they beat last time they won a title?
Blow me. That's who they beat.
And as far as my heart, obviously I can't pick Louisville because those bastards couldn't even make the fucking NIT this year. So I'll say this. I like Kansas beating Villanova in the Final Four because fuck them. Then I want the rematch Kansas versus Kentucky in the national championship. I want that sweet revenge. I want to shut BBN up, shut Coach Cal up, send Oscar Tshiebwe off. Fuck them. I want Kansas to get that revenge. I don't want – if it's a blowout, that's fine with me to get revenge on them. But I want it to be a close one, overtime, victory, sweat it out. The 2 winningest programs in college basketball history. Kansas hangs another banner.
Hey,
That's what my heart says.
Hey, believe me, we want it too because I think we match up better with you than we do other teams. We've kind of proven that. But hey, there's the game by game, round by round breakdown from us. If you haven't filled your bracket out yet or you're still up in the air, hopefully we've helped you with some of those decisions. We got the upsets and kind of reasons why. Real quick before we wrap things up on this annual tournament special, we got to show some love to the women's bracket. Obviously, we're not going to go through the whole tournament. Just give me your Final Four. I've got, as boring as it sounds, as boring as this sounds, I've got all 1 seeds. I've got South Carolina, Louisville on one side, and I've got Stanford and North Carolina State on the other. And then I've got North Carolina State, South Carolina title game. I've got South Carolina winning it all. I think that they are still the best team despite Kentucky beating them. South Carolina, Dawn Staley gets another title on the women's side. By the way, I've got Kentucky women's riding the high. Ryan Howard, maybe number 1 pick in the WNBA draft this summer. I've got them going Sweet 16. They get their revenge in the second round against Indiana in Bloomington, which would be sweet, sweet revenge. Then losing to UConn, of course.
Real quick, I'll go on mine. My Final Four, I got South Carolina versus Louisville. That's 2 1 seeds. And the other matchup in the Final Four, I got 1 seed NC State taking on 3 seed LSU. Kim Mulkey getting back to the Final Four. And I like South Carolina defeating Louisville. I think they're just a better team. I think it'll be a close one. Obviously, my heart says I want Louisville to win, but I just don't think we're able to do it. They got the best player in the country in Leah Boston. And the other Final Four, I think NC State's going to beat LSU. And this sets up a rematch from the game 1 of the season. NC State taking on South Carolina. South Carolina pretty much handily, especially in that third and fourth quarter, because I watched that game, they pretty much handily beat them by double digits. And I think it's going to be a little bit of the same here. South Carolina wins the national championship 74-66.
So I just want to start off this women talk by saying that the NCAA selection committee here completely fucked NC State.
Badly.
There's no way that you penalize a number 1 seed and put UConn in the Bridgeport region as their number 2 seed. That was just total bullshit. But I still think NC State finds a way to come out of that region. I like Stanford in the Spokane region. I like South Carolina coming out of the Greensboro region. And Peyton, I swear to God, I'm not just doing this to fuck with you, but I think Baylor comes out of the Wichita region. Overall, I think NC State beats Stanford and meets South Carolina in the finals, and I take the Wolfpack to pull off the championship. Full disclosure, I did get a chance to cover a couple Wolfpack games this year, and the Lady Pack are really impressive, man. So I'm excited to see what they're able to do.
I think we all have the same national championship. That's kind of interesting. Check out the ladies' action. There's first time they're a field of 68 this year as well. They've got play-in games, a lot of fun, a lot of intriguing matchups. If you don't watch high-level women's basketball, you must check them out. There's some really Ryan Howard from Kentucky, Caitlin Clark from Iowa, Paige Buchers from UConn, Haley Van Lith from Louisville.
Elizabeth Kitley from Virginia Tech is an unbelievable player. She's phenomenal.
Leah Boston from South Carolina. There's so many great women's players that if you're wanting to watch more tournament action, tune over to ESPN this week and check them out because I think you'll be highly entertained. But with that, wrapping up episode 104, the annual ECB tournament preview show. I can't believe it's March already. I can't believe we're finally here. Strap in because we've got a loaded 3 weeks, fast and furious action. We'll start to whittle it down when we come back to you guys next Sunday, back on our regular scheduled time. We will have the field of 16 set. We'll cover all the action from the first 2 rounds, as well as preview the Sweet 16 Elite 8. A lot of action coming in hot and heavy from you, the ECB crew here. We're in tournament time. Guys, by the way, go to the Facebook group. If you're not already a part of it, go to www.facebook.com/group/everything college basketball. We are running our annual ECB tournament challenge. It's $5 a bracket plus $2 an additional bracket. So if you get 3 brackets, it costs you $9. Links are pinned to the top of the group on how to enter, how to make the payment, and the kind of the rules to follow. We normally have a pretty decent pot size right now. Every year we're trying to push this up to an astronomical number so the winners pay out and second, third place gets a nice little payout as well. Go join that before it's too late. Deadline's out Wednesday night, 11:59 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. But with that, wrapping up the tournament special show. For Peyton, for Phil, I've been Josh Burton. Enjoy the madness that's getting ready to commence with us. We'll see you guys next week with episode 105 of the Everything College Basketball Podcast.